Chapter 11:13. The whistling streams of light shot out, densely packed and colorful. It was an attack from both sides. It was different from a one-on-one fight. In a one-on-one fight, there was still a need to test the waters. In a group fight, there was never a need to test the waters. Everyone went all out from the start. It was either you die or I die. Whoever held back would be giving the other party a chance to kill them. There was no room for regret. Boom, boom, boom. Dazzling lights exploded one after another. People were smashed to pieces, leaving behind ownerless armor and weapons. Yi-chun could clearly feel dozens of imprints merging into his low-ranking soldier badge. So that's how it is. Yi-chun came to a sudden realization. Among these dozens of imprints, some were strong and some were weak. The weakest was undoubtedly the low-ranking soldier's imprint. The slightly stronger was the middle-ranking soldier's imprint, and the strongest was the high-ranking soldier's imprint. As for these imprints, they came from everyone's military badges. The reason why the imprints could be produced was probably because they were refined with blood. It turned out that the material of military badges was a very magical substance. Once this substance was combined with a person's blood, it would immediately produce a unique imprint. This substance varied in strength and was roughly divided into 9 levels. Naturally, the imprints were also divided into 9 levels. If someone killed the owner of the badge, the military badge would sense it and release the imprint, merging into the other person's military badge. If it wasn't that person who killed the person, then the imprint would definitely not recognize you. This was because everyone's attack aura was different. The imprint would only recognize the person who killed the badge's owner. In Yi-chun's low-ranking soldier badge, there were a total of 14 imprints. The imprint in the middle was emitting a faint light. It was Yi-chun's imprint. The other imprints were dim. They were arranged according to their strength, from top to bottom. The strong ones were at the top, and the weak ones were at the bottom. There were a total of 3 rows. This is easy. Knowing how many people I killed won't cause any conflicts and contradictions. Without the imprint, it was easy to cause conflicts. If 2 attacks landed on the same person, who would know who killed them with just eyesight? Even if they knew, they probably wouldn't admit it. After a few breaths, the 2 sides quickly connected. An invisible wave spread out, and 30 to 40 demons suddenly found themselves unable to move. It was difficult for them to even move a finger, including the lieutenant general of the demons. In the next moment, countless golden sword lights shot over and penetrated the bodies of these demons. Some even penetrated through their armors and turned them into blood mist, which then disappeared. You guys are unlucky to have met us. The Thousand Arrows monarch didn't care that the demon's minor domain commander was killed by Yi-chun. He was now a minor domain commander, and if he wanted to become a major commander, he would need to kill a major commander and 5 minor domain commanders. Minor domain commanders were everywhere, but major commanders were several times harder to kill. After all, a lower military rank did not necessarily mean a lower strength. Some experts had just joined the army for a short period of time, but a higher military rank meant a higher strength. 36 imprints, 1 minor domain commander imprint, 2 centurion imprints, 8 superior soldier imprints, 15 intermediate soldier imprints, and 10 inferior soldier imprints. Yi-chun's strength was ridiculously strong compared to these demons. If it wasn't for the fact that these demons were too scattered, he could kill dozens of them with a single slash even without the split sword domain. Absolute strength could disregard numbers to a certain extent. This sentence had always been an iron law. So strong. Yi-chun's strength left the Blood Fist monarch and the others dumbfounded. They had thought that the strongest was the Thousand Arrows monarch. Yi-chun, you have to leave a few for us. Yuan Hong's body expanded and turned into a 10-kilometer-tall giant. His body was covered in golden light, and his fists were also shining with golden light. With a boom, dazzling golden light burst out, and at least 6 demons were smashed to pieces by his fist. However, when he saw that Yi-chun had killed many times more people than him, his face immediately turned gloomy. Yuan Hong, aren't you courting death by competing with Yi-chun? Lu Di's killing efficiency wasn't any lower than Yuan Hong's. He brandished his saber, and a green saber light swept out. 7 demons in his line of sight were dismembered, and their broken bodies were electrocuted into nothingness. Yeah, competing with Yi-chun is just self-torture. But the few of us can compete. Sima Fei's true form was a wind-splitting eagle, and he was extremely fast. His figure flickered, and every time he turned, a demon would be clawed into a bloody mist. The other demons felt a chill in their hearts. Let's compete. My Darkwood Profound martial art is unique in area of effect killing. Zhang Yining giggled and quickly formed seals with both hands. Swish, swish, swish. Vines as thick as pythons coiled around the 8 demons, and they became tighter and tighter. The surface of the vines had barbs, and if they pierced into the body, even an Iron Man would lose a layer of skin. This was Zhang Yining's Darkwood Profound martial art, Death Coil. Not only could it bind the enemy, but it could also absorb their power. These 8 demons were too weak, and they were instantly sucked dry by the vines. As for Lu Wenjie's strength, he was second only to Yi-chun and the 1,000 Arrows Monarch. The long spear in his hand was truly a killing weapon. Wherever he went, he would kill. With a shake of the long spear, blood-colored spear flowers bloomed in the sky, one after another, like 100 flowers blooming at the same time. So frightening. Is this the strength of the God Paradise's geniuses? The God Paradise was the holy land for geniuses of the 4 great life starfields. What was a peak genius? The geniuses of the God Paradise were peak geniuses. Those who hadn't entered the God Paradise would only dare to call themselves geniuses, but not peak geniuses. This was because compared to the geniuses of the God Paradise, they could only compete with years. The trial of God only took place once every 10 years, and each time, only about 10 people would be able to enter the paradise of God. In other words, there would be 100,000 people every 100,000 years. Of course, not everyone could survive. The death rate of geniuses was also very high. Their lives were full of glory, but also full of ups and downs. It would not be an exaggeration to say that among the 7th layer and above, at least 30% of the geniuses had entered the God Paradise. And this was only because of the small number. For the 8th layer, this ratio was 70%, and for the 9th layer, it was close to 100%. Swish, swish, swish. If one were to say who was the most carefree and killed the most enemies, it would be the 1,000 Arrows Monarch. He only needed to draw his bow and shoot arrows again and again to kill the demons. In his eyes, all the demons were dumbfounded targets. Run! This group of demons was being slaughtered. How long had it been? When they arrived, there were more than 400 of them. But after a dozen breaths of time, not even 100 remained. In the end, only 5 demons managed to escape. Yi-chun and the rest couldn't take care of these 5. After all, the remaining demons were like bees in a nest, fleeing in all directions. It was very difficult to kill them all. Roar! Roar! On the human side, everyone was like a victorious soldier, shouting loudly. Delightful, truly delightful. More than 400 demons, but we killed them all. Only 5 of them managed to escape. Awesome is awesome, but those guys are too powerful. 30% of the demons were killed by them. I only killed 1. You're lucky, I didn't kill a single one. I killed 2. Putting away his silver bow, 1,000 Arrows Monarch said in a loud voice, "You guys clean up the battlefield. Divide the valuable things among yourselves." The so-called valuable things were armors and weapons, which could be sold or kept for their own use. As for the storage rings, 1,000 Arrows Monarch only collected 20, which belonged to the demons that had died in his hands. He didn't care about the rest. After all, they ate the meat, so they had to leave some soup for others to drink. Hearing these words, everyone was very happy. Most of them joined the army not only for the handsome pay and treatment, but also for the war wealth. Armors and weapons were worth a lot of yuan stones. Occasionally, if they were lucky, they might even have a lot of yuan stones in their storage rings. It had to be said that 1,000 Arrows Monarch knew how to conduct himself. If it were any other commander, although they wouldn't go too far, they would definitely put their own interests first. How could they let go of the valuable things that they didn't have time to collect? In any case, according to the military rules, all ownerless things were distributed by the highest commander. This also stimulated many people to raise their ranks. Of course, the commander had no right to criticize the valuable things that were already in his own pocket. Yi Chen collected 66 storage rings because he had killed 66 people in total. As for armors and weapons, he chose 20 to 30 of them, and the rest were not that valuable. Among the 66 people, there were 1 commander, 2 centurions, 15 high-ranking soldiers, 27 mid-ranking soldiers, and 21 low-ranking soldiers. These achievements could only allow Yi Chen to be promoted to high-ranking soldier, because in order to become a centurion, he had to kill 50 high-ranking soldiers, and he had only killed 15. Of course, this was only the first battle. The amount of yuan stones in 66 storage rings wasn't that much, adding up to only 100,000. But then again, it made sense. Nobody would come to the Black Tortoise ruins with all their belongings. If they died, wouldn't it be easy for the enemy? Cleaning up the battlefield and dividing the valuables was not a quick process. Only Yi Chen's group of 7 and another centurion, the Blood Fist King, didn't join in the fun. Haha, not a single person died this time. We wiped out all the enemies. In my opinion, if we wipe out a few more teams of demons, the news of our achievements in Yunlin military camp will spread. Lu Di laughed. Indeed, it is very possible. Sima Fei nodded. In the past, Thousand Arrows Monarch's highest record was killing 1,200 enemies, which could only be considered above average, not top. After all, sometimes there was nothing he could do if he couldn't encounter an enemy, or if he encountered a large team, he couldn't even escape in time. Thousand Arrows Monarch smiled and couldn't help but look at Yi Chen. Without Yi Chen's super-sensitive ability, they wouldn't have encountered this team of demons. He was thinking that perhaps Yi Chen could become a commander within a few years. Far away in the depths of the ruins, a huge team of 5,000 people was advancing. The leader of this team was one of the 3 battle emperors of the Yiksha deity paradise, the captain of the Bloodhammer team, Mal King. He had fought with Yi Chen and chased after Yi Chen and the Exorcist team. Being able to lead 5,000 people, Mal King was obviously a commander. Chapter 11:14. The pair of huge wings on his back flapped at high speed. King Mal didn't even need to exert much strength. His speed was as fast as lightning, fast as an arc of light. On his chest, there was a commander's badge. This commander badge was different from the ordinary Yiksha commander badges. There was an extra blood diamond on it, and the blood diamond shone with a terrifying light. If a human commander was here, he would definitely recognize this as the honorary commander badge of the Yiksha race, the Blood Diamond Commander Badge. Not every Yiksha commander had the opportunity to become a Blood Diamond Commander. There were only 50 Blood Diamond Commanders in the entire Yiksha clan. If the others wanted to become a Blood Diamond Commander, they had to have peerless martial strength. This was very important. If they didn't have this, they couldn't even think about it, because they didn't meet the requirements. The human race also had an honorary commander badge. Of course, it wasn't a Blood Diamond Commander badge, but a purple gold one. Currently, the human race and demon race had about 54 purple gold commanders, slightly more than the Yiksha race's Blood Diamond commanders. Commander, there's a group of 1,000 humans 9 million li to the left. A Yiksha king clad in silver armor flew out from behind King Mal. 1,000-man team of the human race? King Mal's brows twitched. Lead a group of 700 and hold them back. I'll lead the troops to flank them. Not only was King Mal's martial prowess, but he was also good at commanding. He knew that if he led 5,000 people, the humans would definitely run away. If he sent a group of 1,000, the chances of the humans escaping wouldn't be low either. Everyone knew that the Yikshas were strong, their average quality even higher than the demons. Therefore, a group of 700 was just right. It wasn't too small, but it wasn't to the extent that the humans would lose the courage to fight and flee. Yes, immediately, the silver-armored Yiksha king chose 700 people to chase after the human army. Commander, there's a group of 700 Yikshas coming. A centurion came to report. 700 Yiksha kings. The commander of the human army was a purple-robed old man. Hearing the news, a smile appeared on his face. "Let's meet them. Tell everyone to prepare for battle." "Yes." The centurion retreated. For ordinary life and death kings, 9 million li could be covered in 40 breaths of time. Soon, the two sides could see each other. "Humans, you're dead. Kill." The chief of the Iksha tribe raised his spear high in the air and charged forward with his men. "You bunch of birdmen, why didn't you stay in your nest? You came out to die." The purple-robed old man shouted and led his men forward. Boom, 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 boom. Both sides began to attack each other from tens of thousands of miles away. Dazzling streams of light shot out like a meteor shower, creating a spectacular scene. One by one, both human and Yiksha soldiers were smashed to pieces. However, more and more soldiers rushed forward. In the end, the two sides collided, creating waves of stormy waves. Shattering tornado. The purple-robed elder's weapons were two huge scimitars. As he spun, the scimitars spun along with him. In the next moment, a tornado formed by the scimitars blasted toward the 4 Yiksha soldiers in front of him. Poochie poochie. The 4 Yiksha soldiers were instantly minced into a mist of blood and vanished into nothingness. Old fogey dot. The chief of the Yiksha tribe sneered and slashed down with his spear. 3 human soldiers in front of him exploded, but the spear didn't stop there. It continued to attack the purple-robed elder. "I'm afraid of you." The purple-robed elder shattered the spear with his scimitar. The battle was intense. In just a few dozen breaths, both sides had lost over 100 soldiers. What the purple-robed elder didn't know was that enemies were closing in from all directions. There were 800 Yiksha soldiers in the east, 1,200 in the west, 1,000 in the north, and 1,300 in the south. An inescapable net had silently sealed off the battlefield. In the east, King Maul led 800 Yiksha soldiers and flew at full speed. "More than 100 of our soldiers died. What a disgrace to our tribe." King Maul was a little annoyed when he sensed that more than 100 of his men had died. The Yiksha tribe worshipped strength. Whether it was an individual battle or a group battle, they had to win cleanly. In King Maul's opinion, 700 Yiksha soldiers should have the upper hand against 1,000 human soldiers. Another dozen breaths passed, and King Maul could finally see the two sides fighting. "Kill them!" King Maul roared. The sound waves rumbled. "Kill! Kill! Kill! Kill!" From all directions, the Yiksha soldiers swarmed into the battlefield like a tidal wave. There were too many of them, a total of 4,300, while there were less than 900 human soldiers on the battlefield. Not good. The purple-robed elder's expression changed, but he didn't panic. He was just a little surprised and caught off guard. "Everyone, hold on." The purple-robed elder's voice was firm. "Hold on? Let's see how you're going to hold on." The silver-armored Yiksha king sneered as his attacks became fiercer. However, just when he thought that the human troop was trapped, battle cries came from all directions again. It was definitely not the Yiksha's battle cries, because there were only 5,000 Yikshas in total, so it was impossible for so many people to shout. But if it was not the Yikshas, then who could it be? Our main force is here." The purple-robed elder laughed heartily as his heart calmed down. "Kill these birdmen. Kill them all." From all directions, a total of 4,000 human soldiers surrounded them. Their battle cries shook the heavens and earth, and their killing intent filled the air. Their leader was also a commander, but it was a human commander. He was a square-faced, middle-aged swordsman who wore a silver robe. However, his brows were slightly furrowed, as if he felt that the situation was not easy to control. In fact, the 1,000 men led by the purple-clothed old man were part of his forces. The reason why they were separated was to act as bait to attract the enemy's attention while the main force surrounded them. Although this plan was simple, it was very effective. It had been tried and tested in the Black Tortoise ruins. However, he did not expect that the enemy they encountered was not a small force, but a group of 5,000 men like them. Moreover, the other party had chosen a similar battle plan as him. They would first use 700 Yikshas as the vanguard while the main force surrounded them. The situation on the battlefield was a little funny. More than 1,000 humans and Yikshas were fighting fiercely in the center, while more than 4,000 Yikshas surrounded them. At the outermost layer, there were 4,000 human soldiers. In total, there were 3 layers of them, and no one could escape from the encirclement. Such a chaotic situation made everyone feel pessimistic, and a tragic atmosphere filled the air. Boom, boom, boom. A battle of 5,000 against 5,000 wasn't something that 1,000 against 700 could compare to. The scene was grand, magnificent, and grotesque. It was like a shocking, abstract painting, and everyone present was a part of this abstract painting. As a commander, the silver-robed swordsman was naturally not weak. The heavy 9-ring blade in his hand was like a giant axe that could split the heavens and earth. Wherever he chopped, there would be Yikshas falling. In just a short while, more than 30 Yikshas had died in his hands, and the number was still rising. But compared to the Maul King, he was still lacking. The Maul King's meteor hammer was a terrifying killing weapon. As long as he swung it forward, at least a few human soldiers would be smashed to death or sent flying by the powerful force. Then, he would grab the chain tightly and swing it. The meteor hammer connected to the chain was like a death scythe, reaping lives on the battlefield. In a short time, the number of human soldiers that died in his hands reached 80. Get back! Seeing the blood-colored war hammer reaping the lives of his soldiers, the silver-robed swordsman brandished his blade and slashed at the blood-colored war hammer. Bang! What shocked the silver-robed swordsman was that although his saber had split open the blood-colored war hammer, the saber light he had sent out had also been shattered, and the saber light had been reversed. So strong, the silver-robed swordsman raised his head and looked at the chain. What entered his eyes was a powerful Yiksha king with skin no different from a human's. His right hand was holding onto the egg-thick chain, and his left hand was holding onto the blood-colored warhammer. All of a sudden, the silver-robed swordsman's face paled. His eyes were fixated on the commander badge on the opponent's chest. That blood-colored diamond was extremely eye-catching. It's a blood diamond commander badge. The silver-robed swordsman turned around, wanting to escape. He was no match for a blood diamond commander. There were only about 50 blood diamond commanders in the Yiksha clan, and each of them had the strength of a 7th-layer life and death monarch. In other words, they had the strength of a battle emperor. Among human commanders, only a purple gold commander could contend against a blood diamond commander. You think you can run away? Holding the chain tightly in his right hand, Maul King swung it a few times. With a deep roar, the blood-colored war hammer shot out. Crackle! The blood-colored hammer shadow, mixed with frightening lightning, heavily bombarded the silver-robed swordsman's back. Crackle! The silver-robed swordsman's entire body disintegrated and burned into ashes. Extreme second revolution martial skill, blood thunder hammer. What? The commander is dead. Impossible. How can this be? The human soldiers in the surroundings saw this scene, and their minds went blank. It had to be said that the commanders were the spiritual pillars of the soldiers. Once the commander fell, the spiritual pillars of the soldiers would collapse as well. At this moment, if there was no one to turn the tide, only death awaited them. Although they were all life and death monarchs, and their mental fortitude was not that bad, they were no different from ordinary people in this desperate battlefield. Your commander is dead. He died in the hands of me, Maul King. Maul King's loud roar shook the entire battlefield. Illo! The human soldiers were in a miserable state while the Yiksha soldiers roared continuously, their morale greatly boosted. Maul King, long time no see. Right at this moment, a special troop entered the battlefield. This troop consisted of 7 people, and they swept through everything in their way. None of the Yiksha soldiers in their way could last even half a breath. Chapter 11:15. Emolu King turned around and couldn't help but mock. So it's you. What? You didn't scare me last time, and now you've come knocking on my door. He had long since heard about Yi Chun escaping unscathed from Blade Demon King, Du Ling King, and Zack King. As far as he was concerned, Yi Chun was merely a peak half-step emperor proficient in Space Profound. Perhaps he would become a battle emperor in the future, but not now. How could a battle emperor's strength be so easy to reach? Not bad. I'll come knocking on your door. I wonder how you're going to stop me. Moving like a dragon, Yi Chun unceasingly slashed out huge, faintly golden sword chi. These sword chi were indistinct and indistinct. Not to mention ordinary Yiksha kings. Even a fifth-layer life and death realm Yiksha king would fall under these indistinguishable sword chi. They wouldn't even have the time to react. Extreme Second Revolution martial skill, Thousand Flower Snatch. Among all the extreme Second Revolution martial skills, Thousand Flower Snatch was the weakest in terms of single-target attack. However, its attack range was the largest, and its sword chi was the most concentrated. Against these ordinary Yiksha kings, Thousand Flower Snatch was more effective than Sun Essence Extreme Transformation. The attack of Sun Essence Extreme Transformation formed a straight line, which was suitable for dealing with true experts. With one swing of his sword, more than 10 Yiksha soldiers died in Yi Chun's hands. With 4 swings, he had killed nearly 50 people. This killing speed was not that high for Yi Chun. It was mainly because the Yiksha soldiers were in a chaotic battle with the human soldiers, and Yi Chun had to control the direction of the sword chi. Otherwise, he could easily kill his own people. Boasting shamelessly, Mo Lu King charged toward Yi Chun with his blood-colored warhammer. In a short period of time, the 500 warriors led by the Yi Demon Squad had already killed more than 150 Yiksha soldiers. If this continued, the Yiksha race's advantage would be completely gone. He couldn't allow such a thing to happen. Therefore, his top priority was to take care of Yi Chun as soon as possible and annihilate the Yi Demon Squad. Pung pung pung. Along the way, Mo Lu King's left hand clenched into a fist and continuously punched out. One after another, the human soldiers exploded into blood mists. Yi Chun died. From tens of thousands of li away, Mo Lu King sent a hammerlight toward Yi Chun. Dang! Yi Chun countered with a backhand strike, splitting the hammerlight apart. I'll go meet him, Yi Chun said to the myriad arrows monarch. Okay, be careful. The 1,000-arrow monarch nodded. He had already learned from Yi Chun that Yi Chun had reached the 10th level of the god of war pagoda and was a true battle arch. You too. Yi Chun glanced at the 6 Yiksha kings flying over from afar. These 6 Yiksha kings were members of the Bloodhammer battle team, and each of them had the strength of a quasi-emperor. Don't worry. This time, I will definitely kill a commander. In order for the myriad arrow monarch to become a commander, he had to personally kill a commander-level enemy. Among these 6 Yiksha kings, 2 of them were commanders. 3 flowers appeared on top of his head, 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 blue. With the help of the 3 flowers, Yi Chun's essence, chi, and spirit multiplied. His battle prowess also multiplied, and his aura became sharp. Whoosh! In a flicker, Yi Chun appeared in front of King Mal, thrusting his sword forward. Space profound sword art. Moment of glory. Get lost. King Mal felt his movements become much slower, as if he was stuck in a swamp. Enraged, he raised his battle prowess to the limit, instantly entering the selfless Emperor realm, and raised his blood-colored war hammer to block the sword. Boom! A terrifying shockwave erupted, and dozens of soldiers within 1,000 miles were sent flying, regardless of whether they were friend or foe. A few unlucky ones didn't even have the time to scream before they disintegrated. The soul imprints in their flesh were destroyed by the too powerful intents, and they died completely. Both sides were sent flying back a few hundred miles, but they quickly clashed again. Every clash was a real contest, and from the looks of it, Yi Chun was at a disadvantage. So that's how it is. I didn't expect you to already have the strength of a battled arch. No wonder you were so arrogant. But do you think you can fight me just because you have the strength of a battled arch? Dream on. After a dozen rounds, King Mal had more or less understood Yi Chun's true strength. He sneered, swinging the iron chain with both hands like a flaming wheel, hammering at Yi Chun again and again. The blood-red hammerlight was like a raging storm, never-ending. Yi Chun's eyes were 10 times sharper than an eagle's eyes. After being forced back a few hundred miles, he suddenly struck out with his sword. Clang! The rapidly spinning blood-colored warhammer was knocked away by the sword, and sparks flew everywhere, leaving King Maul wide open. Die! The dragon spring sword slashed out, and a white dragon-like sword chi slammed onto King Maul's chest. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out from King Maul's mouth, and he was sent flying. Just a mouthful of blood? Yi-Chun was stunned for a moment, then suddenly realized. Right, I almost forgot. He is one of the 3 battle emperors of the evil god Paradise. He must have a low-level Heavenly King set. In that case, it will be difficult to kill him. A low-level Heavenly King set was no small matter. After wearing it, one could basically ignore the attacks of a quasi-emperor. Even the strongest quasi-emperor wouldn't be able to break through its defense. At most, one could transmit a little force through the set. For example, Yi-Chun didn't manage to break through King Maul's defense. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as simple as just spitting out a mouthful of blood. A battle emperor with a Heavenly King set was like adding wings to a tiger. In terms of combat strength, a battle emperor's greatest weakness was defense. It couldn't be said that the stronger one's attack was, the stronger one's defense would be. Generally speaking, it was already very heaven-defying for a battle emperor to be able to withstand a quasi-emperor's attack head-on. After all, under normal circumstances, one's attack would weaken the opponent's attack, and the chance of being hit was very small. Haha, your attack is too weak. It can't even break through my defense. King Maul touched his chest and laughed out loud. At the same time, he was a little surprised that his opponent could actually break through his hammer art, leaving him wide open. Is that so? This is just the beginning. With the silver armor set's 40% increase in energy, Yi-Chun barely had the strength of a battle emperor without using the Sun Essence Extreme Transformation. But it was a different story when he used the Sun Essence Extreme Transformation. Let's see how you're going to break through my defense. King Maul was very confident in his defense. Although his combat strength was at the level of a low-level battle emperor, a mid-level battle emperor would have a hard time killing him. He could definitely resist for a period of time and escape unscathed. Of course, his opponent's speed couldn't be that much faster than him. Compared to Yi-Chun, his biggest advantage was his higher cultivation in the Anatar realm. These 2 points allowed him to utilize the attributes of the Copper Demon set to the maximum. Commander, let's join forces and kill him. Right at this moment, a dozen Yaksha kings appear beside King Maul. They were 3 minor lieutenants, 9 centurions, and 2 high-ranking soldiers. When they saw that King Maul couldn't do anything to Yi-Chun, they decided to join forces with King Maul to kill Yi-Chun. As long as they could kill Yi-Chun, they would definitely win this war. King Maul's expression changed several times, but in the end, he resolutely nodded. All right. This was a battlefield. The first thing to consider was how to kill the opponent. As for how to kill the opponent, it didn't matter. Listen to my command, attack together. King Maul unleashed his soul force and locked onto Yi-Chun from afar. Immediately, he swung his blood-colored war hammer again, his aura surged, and when it reached its limit, he launched an attack. Kill! King Maul roared in anger. The blood-colored war hammer turned into a blood-colored meteor and shot out. Third revolution, martial skill, meteor annihilation. Kill! Kill! The dozens of Yaksha kings around King Maul also unleashed their ultimate attacks. Yi-Chun ignored all the killing moves coming at him. He held the dragon's spring sword with both hands and raised it high above his head. In the next moment, countless drifting lights in the starry sky gathered towards him. These lights were the essence of fire Yuan Qi, yang Yuan Qi, light Yuan Qi, and even the various kinds of energies that were bursting out from the battlefield were extracted by Yi-Chun. Everything had its yin and yang sides. The extreme Sun Essence Transformation was a sort of extreme yang. In fact, the extreme Sun Essence Transformation was extremely powerful even if it didn't absorb any external energy. But it wasn't under Yi-Chun's control. As long as Yi-Chun used the extreme Sun Essence Transformation, the Dragon Spring Sword would automatically absorb the available energy. With a loud shout, Yi-Chun swung his sword down. Boom! A dazzling light that was comparable to a supernova explosion spread out at the speed of light. At this moment, everyone on the battlefield was dazzled by this dazzling light, and they couldn't help but close their eyes. Even the soul power they released was slightly disrupted, causing a blank space to appear in front of them. It was as if a sun had risen in the silent and dark ruins, releasing all of its energy. Like snow melting under the scorching sun, the dozen Yiksha kings beside King Maul instantly melted, turning into wisps of green smoke that dissipated in the air. As for King Maul himself, he was the target that Yi Chun paid special attention to, so he bore about 90% of the power. His eyes bulged out, and his body twisted crazily under the intense light. His shadow elongated to its limit, and was eventually swallowed by the light. When the light gradually dissipated, King Maul's figure was revealed. The blood-colored war hammer in his hand was sent flying, floating in the vacuum tens of thousands of li away. His body was covered in blood, and his body was covered in blisters. His appearance was miserable, and his aura was weak. With just a single slash, Yi Chun killed more than a dozen Yiksha kings and gravely injured King Maul. This kind of strength could only be achieved by a mid-level combat emperor. Of course, Yi Chun did have the strength of a mid-level combat emperor. Yi Chun, don't even think of killing me. King Maul couldn't be bothered to recover from his injuries, nor did he bother to pick up the blood-colored warhammer. He turned around, and with a burst of speed, he flew towards the north. Yi Chun's soul power locked on a King Maul, and a golden halo shot out from his forehead. The speed of the golden halo was so fast that King Maul staggered, and his face paled. Before this, he had already executed a soul defense secret art to guard against Yi Chun's soul attack. However, he didn't expect Yi Chun's soul attack to be 10 times stronger than he had imagined, and his soul defense couldn't withstand it at all. As the golden halo shot out, Yi Chun followed it up with a soul light, which heavily injured King Maul's soul. After doing all this, Yi Chun raised the dragon spring sword up high, and after taking a deep breath, he executed the Sun Essence Extreme Transformation for the second time. A blinding light engulfed King Maul. Pop! A seal entered the badge of a low-level soldier. It was the commander's seal. This meant that King Maul was dead. Chapter 11:16. It wasn't easy at all. Seeing that Maul King was dead, Yi Chun let out a heavy breath. He could kill Maul King because of 2 factors. First, he had the strength of a mid-level combat emperor, and second, he had a powerful soul power. Moreover, he had a soul attack like Yuan's Spirit Lock. Without either of these factors, he wouldn't have been able to kill Maul King. With a suction force, Maul King's low-grade Heavenly King armor, blood-colored warhammer, and storage ring were pulled over by an invisible force and landed in Yi Chun's hand. It was a green-black armor with a demonic beast head, but it was flattened. Even after enduring 2 extreme Sun Essence transformation attacks from Yi Chun, there were only 2 marks left on it. Under normal circumstances, a low-grade Heavenly King armor would cost no less than 3 million yuan stones. The reason it was so expensive was because there was no market for it. Once it appeared, it would inevitably cause a fight. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. This logic was applicable everywhere. Erasing the soul imprint on the storage ring, Yi Chun poured his soul power into it. Maul King had brought a lot of yuan stones with him, at least 500,000. Yi Chun realized that a war could make him rich. Up until now, he had already obtained more than 600,000 yuan stones, and this didn't include the fortune he was about to receive. Commander is dead. Run. Many Yiksha soldiers saw this scene and immediately thought of retreating. Maul King was a blood diamond commander, 10 times more powerful than ordinary commanders. If such a powerful existence was killed, how could they stop Yi Chun? After all, Yi Chun wasn't alone. There were thousands of human soldiers on the scene. Without exaggeration, if they didn't run, Yi Chun alone could kill them all in a short time. Impossible. How could Captain die in his hands? The ones who couldn't accept this the most were undoubtedly the members of Bloodhammer Battle Team. They couldn't believe that Yi Chun, who was still a demonic emperor 2 years ago, had the strength to kill Maul King. It wasn't that Maul King hadn't fought against mid-level combat emperors before. Out of the 5 times, he was able to escape unscathed. Logically speaking, only a high-level combat emperor could kill Maul King in an instant. There's no time to lose. Let's go. With the death of the Maul King, the 6 members of the Blood Hammer battle team fled without any hesitation. With the strength of a half-step emperor, escaping was too easy for them. Where are you going? The myriad arrow monarch shot out 14 arrows in a row, and each arrow had the power to severely injure an ordinary quasi-emperor. Lu Wenjia's spear arts erupted to their limits. A giant blood flower bloomed in the ruins. This blood flower was formed from countless smaller blood flowers. In the center of the blood flower, there was a spear light that wanted to devour its target. Lu Di, Sima Fei, Zhang Yining, and Yuan Hong also attacked their opponents with all their might. Unfortunately, both sides were equally powerful, and there was a limit to how much stronger they could be. Moreover, the human and Yiksha soldiers were fighting everywhere, which hindered them to a certain extent. What a pity! The myriad arrow king stopped chasing and turned his attention to the Yiksha soldiers. Every time he released the bowstring, 3 or 4 Yiksha soldiers would fall. Every arrow was fatal. The Yiksha soldiers began to crumble and flee in panic. Yi Chun took advantage of the chaos and killed more than 400 of them. In the end, only 1,000 managed to escape. Of course, the human soldiers were in a miserable state as well. At a glance, there were less than 3,000 of them left, including the 500 led by the myriad arrow king. As the saying went, kill 1,000 enemies, lose 800, 5,000 against 5,000. It was basically impossible to completely annihilate the enemy. Only if one's soldiers were 10 times more powerful than the enemies would one have complete confidence. Adding the 40 or 50 people he had killed before, Yi Chun had killed nearly 500 people in total, obtaining more than 400 storage rings, 100 armors, and 300 weapons. It was quite a bountiful harvest. Everyone, many thanks for your help. This Lu can't thank you enough. The purple-robed old man's luck was quite good. Even the leaders had died, but he had survived until the end. There was a saying that old ginger was spicier, and the old had more experience. The myriad arrow king said, "In the black tortoise ruins, we are all comrades. No need to be grateful." The dead had already died, and the wealth they had left behind made everyone a small fortune. Nearly 4,000 Yiksha soldiers had died, and 2,000 human soldiers had died. In total, there were more than 6,000 soldiers. In other words, there were more than 6,000 treasures on the battlefield. Among these 6,000 treasures, there might be a few that could save them decades or even hundreds of years of hard work. Of course, Yi Chun and the rest had collected a lot of wealth, and the number of treasures left on the battlefield was only about 3,000 to 4,000. Yi Chun didn't check the number of yuan stones in the storage rings one by one. It wouldn't be too late to check after returning to the gold armor planet. You should have seen Yi Chun's strength. His strength is comparable to a purple gold commander. With him alone, no matter how many experts there are, we won't have to be afraid. A troop of 1,000, we can eat as many as we want, and we don't have to be afraid of a troop of 5,000. Myriad Arrow King tried his best to persuade the purple-robed old man. The purple-robed old man pondered for a while, then firmly nodded. "All right, the bold will die, and the cowardly will die. After this, we won't have to risk our lives for the next 10 years." He had seen Yi Chun's strength with his own eyes. Just as Myriad Arrow King had said, as long as Yi Chun was here, they indeed didn't have to be afraid. If they didn't seize this opportunity to make some money, there wouldn't be another chance in the future. Moreover, apart from Yi Chun, Myriad Arrow King, and the other 5 were also frightening experts. The 7 of them could be compared to thousands of people on the battlefield. But I still have to discuss it with the other 2 commanders. The purple-robed old man said again. Myriad Arrow King nodded. A short while later, the purple-robed old man flew over with a smile on his face. They agreed. No one was a fool. Who would be willing to give up such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Cowards wouldn't join the army and enter the Black Tortoise ruins. Just like that, the 2 teams merged together and became one team. The team was temporarily led by the purple-robed old man as the overall commander, while the other 2 were his deputies. As for Yi Chun and the other 6, although their military ranks were slightly lower, they could still speak for them. After all, they would still need to contribute when the time came. Time flowed like water, and soon, 1.5 months passed. In this 1.5 month, led by the purple-robed old man and assisted by Yi Chun and the others, the team of 3,000 people annihilated 15 enemy teams. 9 teams of 500 people and 6 teams of 1,000 people, for a total of around 10,000 people. During this time, Yi Chun also discovered a team of 5,000 people, but Yi Chun didn't say it out loud. With their strength, they could indeed defeat an enemy team of 5,000 people, but they would inevitably suffer heavy losses. After all, no matter how fierce he couldn't annihilate too many enemies in a short period of time. He didn't want too many human soldiers to die because of him. After another 3 days, everyone finally decided to leave the Black Tortoise ruins. On the Myriad Arrow King's emerald green warship, everyone was drinking and chatting loudly, looking very excited. They had come with 500 people, but by the time they returned, they had only lost 20 people. This was a very small loss. Most importantly, everyone who returned had a bountiful harvest. Some soldiers had even obtained tens of thousands of yuan stones and 20 supreme grade artifacts, while the least had several thousand yuan stones. With 4 or 5 supreme grade artifacts, how could they not be excited? It should be known that ordinary life and death kings only had 1 or 2,000 yuan stones, and this was even if they lived frugally. In a universe, there were countless life and death kings, and they were merely ordinary people. For their entire lives, they had to worry about earning yuan stones or raising their cultivation base. Therefore, when an opportunity presented itself, they were willing to take risks. Although joining the army seemed dangerous, it was actually a way to make money. Of course, if one were to say who had the most harvest, it would naturally be Yi Chun. Yi Chun had obtained a total of 1,200 storage rings and 1,000 supreme grade artifacts. In these 1,200 storage rings, there were 2 million yuan stones, which was several times more than Yi Chun's net worth, turning him into a millionaire. As for the 1,000 supreme grade artifacts, although their value was less than 2 million yuan stones, it was still not a small amount. In the weapon shop, a low-grade artifact was worth 200 to 300 yuan stones. A mid-grade artifact was worth 500 to 700 yuan stones, and a high-grade artifact was worth 1,000 to 1,500 yuan stones. With an average of 700 yuan stones per artifact, Yi Chun's 1,000 supreme grade artifact had a total value of 700,000 yuan stones. This didn't even include the Moral King's copper demon armor and blood-colored warhammer, because these two alone were worth several million yuan stones. In short, Yi Chun's harvest in this trip to the Black Tortoise ruins was more than 5 million yuan stones. I don't have to worry anymore. Drinking a mouthful of wine, Yi Chun smiled. He had never thought that war was a way to make money. No, it was a way to make a fortune. Coming a few times a year, after 10 years, his net worth would be at least tens of millions. Apart from wealth, Yi Chun's kill count was shocking. In the last 2 months, he had killed a total of 1,550 enemies, including 1 commander, 5 major commanders, 11 minor commanders, 43 centurions, 200 high-ranking soldiers, 400 mid-ranking soldiers, and 700 low-ranking soldiers. With this calculation, Yi Chun could already be promoted to major commander. As for commander, he was still a bit short, as he needed to kill 2 commanders. 10 commanders, and Yi Chun was still short of half. After all, there was only 1 commander in a troop of 1,000, and 1 commander in a troop of 5,000. Returning to the Heaven Eye Star, everyone teleported to the Gold Armor Star through the teleportation array. Gold Armor Star Soldier City's Northern Palace. This place was responsible for checking the battle records. Troop of 1,000 people, lost 420 people, killed 832 people, average battle record. Troop of 5,000 people, lost 1,842 people, average battle record. Troop of 500 people, lost 300 people, killed 252 people, average battle record. From time to time, a clear and cold voice came from the palace. It was a woman's voice. It turned out that every time a troop went to war, there would be a battle record evaluation. If the number of people lost exceeded the number of enemies killed, then the battle record would obviously be bad. If the number of people lost was less than the number of enemies killed, then the battle record would be evaluated as average or high. However, up until now, there was not a single high battle record. Instead, most of the low battle record was low. Thinking about it, with the same number of people, the human race did not have any advantage. Chapter 11:17. Soon, it was Yi Chen's team's turn. First was the individual score evaluation, starting from the Thousand Arrow King, who had the highest military rank. Military rank, Minor Lieutenant. The number of enemies killed is 420. Among them, 10 are great commanders, 3 are minor commanders, 9 are centurions, 85 are upper-class soldiers, 120 are middle-class soldiers, and 202 are lower-class soldiers. If you kill a great commander, 35 are minor commanders, and 120 are centurions. You could be promoted to great commander. Military contribution points, 607,000. Individual battle score, 3 stars. Average battle score, 2 stars. The Thousand Arrow King's battle score was undoubtedly brilliant. The number of enemies he killed alone was equivalent to a team of 1,000. He was also officially promoted to lieutenant. Next were the 5 centurions. Among the 5 centurions, Zhang Yining killed the most enemies with 320, followed by Sima Fei with 310, Lu Di with 300, and Yuan Hong with 293. As for the Blood Fist King, he had the least with only 50. After all, he was just an ordinary centurion, so his individual strength wasn't very high. Apart from the Blood Fist King, Zhang Yining and the other 3 were promoted to minor lieutenants. Lu Wenjie was originally a senior soldier, but this time he was also promoted to minor lieutenant. His kill count was slightly higher than Zhang Yining's, 345. If the achievements of the previous 6 people were already quite glorious, then the achievements of Yi Chen, a low-ranked soldier, were undoubtedly brilliant. Military rank, junior soldier. 1,550 enemies killed. 1 commander, 5 major generals, 11 minor generals, 43 centurions, 290 high-ranking soldiers, 465 middle-ranking soldiers, and 735 low-ranking soldiers. Killing 1 commander, 5 major generals, 11 major generals, 43 centurions, 290 high-ranking soldiers, 465 middle-ranking soldiers, and 735 low-ranking soldiers will result in promotion to the rank of Major General. Military contribution points. 1. 687 stars. Individual battle score, 5 stars. Average battle score, 5 stars. The lady officer lifted up her head and studied Yi Chen. This kind of battle record was something that even the purple gold warriors would not be able to achieve. It was not because they were not powerful enough, but because they would not have the luck to run into so many enemies. The Black Tortoise ruins had to be calculated in light years, so it was quite possible that they would not run into 1 enemy in a week. This is your Commander-in-Chief badge. The cold female officer handed an orange badge to Yi Chen. Although the military insignia were made of the same materials, the colors were different according to their rarity. The insignia for low-ranked soldiers was white, the insignia for middle-ranked soldiers was gray, the insignia for high-ranked soldiers was green, the insignia for centurions was green, the insignia for minor lieutenants was yellow, the insignia for major lieutenants was orange, the commander was purple, the general was gold, and the marshal was blue and gold. Not long after, everyone's battle records were tallied up. Next, it was time to tally up the team's battle records. The team had 500 people. We lost 24 people and killed 4,830 enemies. Excellent results. Hiss. As the cold female official's voice rang out, the sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air could be heard in the main hall. A team of 500 people had only lost 24 people, and they had killed 4,830 enemies. This was too abnormal. The cold female officer had a rare smile on her face. Ever since she was in charge of the battle records, she rarely showed a smile. It wasn't because she was cold, but because she couldn't smile at all. According to her statistics, the loss ratio between humans and enemies had reached a shocking 2-to-1 ratio. In other words, for every 2 humans, only 1 enemy would die. If this was magnified, wouldn't it mean that 20 million humans had died and only 10 million enemies had died? The difference was too huge. Leaving the main hall, Yi Chun and the other 6 walked on the streets of the Armor Soldier City. How about we go to the secret spell tower and have a look? Zhang Yimin suddenly suggested. All right, it's been a long time since we went there. Zhang Yimin's suggestion was unanimously agreed by everyone. Yi Chun didn't object either. The secret spell tower was in the west of the Armor Soldier City. The tower was 7 floors high, and its whole body was emitting a 5-colored radiance. This 5-colored radiance was extraordinary. As soon as Yi Chun's soul power approached it, it was shattered, and his head started to hurt. The Thousand Arrow King said, "The secret spell tower is one of the most important places in the Gold Armor City. There are thousands of secret arts inside, including ordinary Earth Realm ones and Heaven Realm ones. As long as you have enough contribution points, you can exchange for any secret art you want. As for robbing it, that's just courting death. Not to mention the fact that there are countless experts on the Gold Armor planet. There are even life and death realm warriors of the 8th sky. Just the restriction of the secret spell tower is not something ordinary people can break." I heard that the restriction of the secret spell tower was set up by a 9th sky warrior. Trying to break it is equivalent to challenging a 9th sky warrior. Lu Di added. Arriving outside the secret spell tower, the 7 stopped for inspection. The inspection was actually very simple. All they had to do was look at their military badges. Anyone with military badges could enter, regardless of whether they were low-ranking soldiers or generals. "All right, you can go in." The guard waved his hand and let them in. Entering the secret spell tower, Sima Fei said, "Go to the 2nd floor. The 1st floor has Earth Realm secret arts, which are very ordinary. The 1st floor had Earth Realm secret arts, and from the 2nd floor onwards, there were Heaven Realm secret arts. Any soldier could enter the 1st floor, but not everyone could enter the 2nd floor. One had to have more than 10,000 contribution points to enter the 2nd floor. As for the 3rd floor, it required 100,000, 1 million for the 4th floor, 10 million for the 5th floor, 100 million for the 6th floor, and 1 billion for the 7th floor. Arriving at the 2nd floor, the 7 stopped for a while and then went to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor secret arts were quite precious. Even Thousand Arrow King and the others would not choose to ignore them. They carefully looked at them to see if there was anything they liked. I have the 3 flowers for fighting secret arts, Yuan Spirit Immortal for soul defense secret arts, and Yuan Spirit Lock for soul attack secret arts. I don't lack any of these for the time being. I wonder what's on the 4th floor?" After walking around, Yi Chun did not find anything he liked, so he decided to go to the 4th floor. The 4th floor requires 1 million contribution points. The guard stopped Yi Chun. Yi Chun handed the commander's badge to the guard and let him check his contribution points. Soon, the guard returned the badge. "You can go up now." The military badge needed to be refined with blood. It was equivalent to identification. Through the military badge, the guard could check Yi Chun's military information. Naturally, he could also see Yi Chun's contribution points. It was very fast. On the 4th floor, Yi Chun began to look around earnestly. His contribution points were 1,687,000, so he couldn't go to the 5th floor. He hoped that the 4th floor would have a secret art that he wanted. Soul Breaking Arrow, Soul Attack Secret Art. Requires 2 million contribution points. Soul Armor, Soul Defense Secret Art. Requires 350,000 contribution points. Hidden Dragon Art. Stimulates the hidden potential in the body. Requires 5 million contribution points. Huh? Stimulates potential? Yi Chun's eyes flashed. Chapter 11:18. In order to open the selfless realm, one needed to know one's own limits and then break through them. Yi Chun had never been able to determine where his limits were. No matter how much he pushed himself, he could still improve. Moreover, his soul power was too powerful, and his brain cells were abnormally active. This also increased the difficulty of opening the selfless realm, and he had yet to succeed. However, the hidden dragon art would be different. It could completely arouse the hidden potential within Yi Chen's body, which was equivalent to opening the selfless realm in disguise. Thinking about the secret arts needed to open the selfless realm, Yi Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had successfully taught Lan Xian'er, allowing her to enter the selfless realm. He didn't expect that he, as her master, would have to rely on secret arts. The fourth floor already has a secret art like the Hidden Dragon art. What kind of earth-shattering secret arts will there be in the 5th, 6th, and 7th floors? How powerful will those who learn them become? Yi Chen suddenly realized that after the 6th layer of life and death realm, there was not only a gap in basic strength, but also a gap in knowledge. It was not an exaggeration to say that each step was like a different world. Spending 1.5 million contribution points, Yi Chen exchanged for the Hidden Dragon art. On the 3rd floor, Thousand Arrow King's group of 6 didn't find any secret arts that suited them. It was understandable. With their status and insight, ordinary secret arts were nothing in their eyes. Leaving the secret art tower, the 7 directly returned to the Rising Cloud military camp. No matter which camp it was, soldiers could only live in the soldier building, centurions lived in the centurion building, and lieutenants had their own small courtyards. Lieutenants had their own large courtyards with superior geographical conditions. Choosing an ownerless courtyard, Yi Chen moved in. There was still a month before the Snow Air Emperor would lead the army to the Black Tortoise Ruins. He decided to use this time to try cultivating the Hidden Dragon art to minor completion. The Hidden Dragon art cultivation method was very unique, so unique that it was Yi Chen's first time seeing it. It had a total of 9 postures. Learning 3 postures would be considered minor completion. Learning 6 postures would allow the Hidden Dragon art to enter the palace. Learning all 9 postures would allow the Hidden Dragon art to reach major completion. The first 3 postures were the Golden Rooster asking the question, parting the clouds, and suddenly looking back. The so-called Golden Pheasant seeking the way was actually standing on one leg with his palms together. His eyes seemed to be open but not closed, and his mind was clear and unaffected by the outside world. This posture seemed easy, but it was actually extremely obscure. There was nothing else. The posture was merely an outward appearance. What was truly important was the charm. Without the charm, no matter how good the outward appearance was, it was just a useless bag of skin. In the courtyard, Yi Chen maintained this posture, not moving an inch. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. On the 3rd day, the sun rose for the 3rd time. Every vital planet had a companion sun. In the first 2 days, Yi Chen didn't feel much about the morning sun. But on this day, Yi Chen's beard shone brightly. It seemed that the sunlight from the outside world not only illuminated the golden armor star, but also his soul, giving him a new understanding from the inside out. His thoughts were extremely clear and agile. I see. Yi Chen slightly adjusted his posture, and in the next moment, a warm golden light spread out from his body. A faint divine charm spread out, giving off a feeling of turning something rotten into something magical. In his body, every cell was wriggling, releasing a warm power. This was the potential hidden deep in his body. The potential was endless, like a reservoir that could continuously provide power. Developing the potential did not mean squeezing out all the potential. That was impossible. Even if it was possible, no one dared to do it. The Hidden Dragon art was to fully stimulate the potential. For example, the reservoir originally provided power of 1, but now it could be increased to 2 or even 3. His mind was as calm as an ancient well. Yi Chen's whole body was immersed in a mysterious state. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days had passed. Yi Chen had completely mastered the first posture, Golden Rooster asking. As time went by, the speed of potential development was getting slower and slower. Yi Chen knew that it was time to learn the second posture. The second posture was also very strange. It was still standing on one foot, but its body was leaning forward, its eyes looked forward, and its hands made a gesture to push away the clouds in front of it. Although the whole posture was still, it gave people a sense of movement, as if it was between the line of stillness and movement. The most important part of the first posture is the word ask, And the most important part of the second posture should be the word pull, right? Golden Rooster asking meant to explore the way of the outside world. So the word ask was the most important. According to Yi Chen's understanding, the second posture should be the word pull was more important. The whole posture also gave people a feeling of pushing away the clouds and seeing the blue sky. 5 days passed. No. Could it be that I understood it wrong? The most important part is not the word pull question mark. Yi Chen had doubts. In the past 5 days, he did not make any progress at all. Instead, it made his blood boil, and he could not calm down. If it's not the word pull, what is it? Cloud? Fog? In the blink of an eye, the sun and moon alternated twice. Seems like I took it for granted. The most important part of pushing away the clouds is the word open. I didn't expect it to be the first thing I eliminated. That's right. The most important part of pushing away the clouds was the word open. Pulling was the beginning, and opening was the result. Only when the clouds were pushed away could one see the blue sky, and only then could one enter a new realm. This time, Yi Chen's body emitted a pale green light. The pale green light was extremely pure, like the color of the blue sky. It made one's heart open and fighting spirit high. In Yi Chen's body, the speed of the cells wriggling was far faster than during the Golden Rooster asking period. Wave after wave of potential surged out, combining with Yi Chen's true essence. After combining with a large amount of potential, the total amount did not increase, but the quality changed. In other words, Yi Chen's basic strength was increasing in an orderly manner. On the 15th day, Yi Chen officially learned the third posture and suddenly turned back. This posture was more difficult than the previous two combined. It maintained the posture of pushing away the clouds, but its head had to turn and look behind it. What was behind it? Suddenly turned back. Why did it turn back? Reflecting on the past? It wasn't until the 30th day that Yi Chen understood. Suddenly turned back was not to see what was behind it, nor was it reflecting on the past. Instead, it was to tell you that the previous two postures were the Golden Rooster asking and the pushing away the clouds. Could he do 2 poses with 1 pose? That was impossible. Moreover, suddenly turned back already had a fixed posture. It was impossible to add the Golden Rooster asking and the pushing away the clouds. The posture could not be added, but the charm could. The charm of suddenly turned back was the Golden Rooster asking and the pushing away the clouds. The combination of the 2 charms was the charm of suddenly turned back. After a whole week, Yi Chen finally combined the charm of the Golden Rooster asking and the pushing away the clouds. His body emitted a golden green light. The hidden dragon art had reached the initial success stage. Chapter 11:19. With the initial success of the hidden dragon spell, something in Yi Chen's body seemed to crack. It was a shackle that stopped Yi Chen's progress. As this shackle was broken, Yi Chen vaguely found out where his limit was. Now, he only needed to break through this limit to open the selfless state. There are only 3 days left before the battle. I hope I can open the selfless state within these 3 days. Yi Chen continued to maintain the posture and charm of suddenly looking back. The potential in his body continuously flowed out, fusing with the increasingly pure and powerful true essence. The Yunlai barracks have been turbulent recently. Ever since the Snow Air Emperor announced that he would lead an army of 50,000 people to the Black Tortoise ruins, the number of people in the Yunlai barracks had been increasing. From the original 50,000 people, it had grown to the current 180,000 people. The extra 100,000 people were naturally not from the Yunlai barracks, but from the other barracks on planet Gold Armor. Currently, there was one general in the Yunlai barracks, and that was the Snow Air Emperor. There were more than 30 commanders, and 4 of them were the elusive purple gold commanders. There were hundreds of major commanders and minor commanders, not to mention the centurions. Everyone wanted to join the Snow Air Emperor's army and make some money from the war. Because every time a general was dispatched, the enemies in the Black Tortoise ruins would be massacred, unless the enemy also dispatched a general. Unfortunately, a general could only command 50,000 people. The Snow Air Emperor had already appointed 4 commanders, 5 major commanders, and 8 minor commanders. The 4 commanders were naturally purple gold commanders. The 5 major commanders included the Thousand Arrow King and Yichun. The 8 minor commanders included the other 5 members of the Exorcist Squad. As for the others, the Snow Air Emperor did not care who they were. In the wide courtyard, a terrifying aura suddenly burst out of Yi Chen's body. This aura flashed and disappeared, finally merging with Yi Chen's body. The next moment, Yi Chen's black hair grew longer at a visible speed, and his pupils became focused silver. It gave people the feeling that he had forgotten himself, yet was extremely self-centered. The selfless state. Success. Is this the selfless realm? Yi Chen felt that not only had his strength increased by a lot, but it had also become more concentrated. Every movement he made was in his best condition. In terms of effect, it was not as good as the 3 flowers borrowing of the way, which could double one's battle prowess. The first stage of the selfless state increased one's strength by about 70 to 80%, but it was still the first stage after all. There was still the second and third stages to come. Buzz. The air rippled like water as 3 illusory flowers appeared above Yi Chen's head. This was the sign of using the 3 flowers to borrow the Tao. However, just as the blue flowers were about to form, they suddenly collapsed. It's a pity that I can't use the 3 flowers borrowing the way while in the selfless state. It seems that regardless of whether it's the selfless state or the 3 flowers borrowing the way, I must be extremely focused and cannot be distracted. Yi Chen thought to himself as the 3 flower phantoms dissipated. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The Snow Air Emperor had already gathered 50,000 men and horses. As for those who couldn't join the Snow Air Emperor, they could only hope that they would have the chance to join another general in the future. Let's go. The Snow Air Emperor waved his hand, and the 50,000 men left Planet Gold Armor through 10 large teleportation arrays. Planet Heaven I. Every day, tens of thousands of soldiers came to Planet Heaven I through the teleportation arrays. The arrival of such a large group immediately attracted the attention of the upper echelons of Planet Heaven I. Not long after, a general of Planet Heaven I flew over. So, it's the Snow Air Emperor. This general of Planet Heaven I clearly recognized the Snow Air Emperor. The Snow Air Emperor smiled and said, "Iron Fist Emperor, long time no see. The army on Planet Heaven I changed every 100 years. It was the same for the generals and generals. The Iron Fist Emperor was one of the generals under the Great General of Planet Heaven I. He had been stationed on Planet Heaven I for more than 50 years. The Iron Fist Emperor looked to be in his 40s or 50s. He had a resolute expression on his face. He said, "Originally, I was going to have someone inform the other military planets. Just now, a group returned to Planet Heaven I. According to them, a group of 50,000 demons appeared in the Black Tortoise ruins. Now, with you leading the group, we should be able to suppress them." An army of demons? What a coincidence. The Snow Air Emperor smiled. As a human general, she naturally wouldn't be afraid of the demons. At their level, everything depended on strength. Be careful. We must show the might of our human race. The Iron Fist Emperor had a lot of confidence in the Snow Air Emperor. The Snow Air Emperor wasn't a 1-star general, but a 3-star general. The highest rank was a 5-star general. To become a general, apart from gaining the recognition of the 5 marshals, one had to be a 5-star general. As for becoming a 5-star general, it wasn't easy. One had to kill a 1-star general, a 2-star general, a 3-star general, and a 4-star general. In total, there were 4-star generals. Naturally, the Snow Air Emperor nodded. Just like that, the Snow Air Emperor led the 50,000 troops and rode on the battleship towards the depths of the Black Tortoise ruins. A large Heavenly Monarch battleship could only hold 5,000 people. Any more, and it would be too crowded. 10 large Heavenly Monarch battleships. Yi Chen and the Myriad Arrow Monarchs group of 7 rode on a black battleship. The owner of this battleship was an ordinary commander, the Black Mysterious King. With 50,000 troops, they naturally had to go deeper into the Black Tortoise ruins. Otherwise, it would be difficult to run into too many enemies. After a full 2 hours, the 10 battleships returned to the starry sky. Standing in front of everyone, the Snow Air Emperor turned back and said, "Now, we will begin the net operation. Remember, keep your distance. Don't spread out too much, and don't get too close." The so-called net operation was to split their forces into 100 teams, each with 500 people. These teams were led by the Snow Air Emperor as the center, with the 10 commanders as the backbone, and the 50 commanders as the meridians. Overall, it looked like a long net, sweeping away all the enemies in front. The net operation was very smooth. After a week, they had killed a total of 30,000 enemies. Basically, no enemy could escape from the net. Watch out, there's a big fish in front, 9 million li away. There's a small fish here, 7 million li to the right. There's a small fish in front. There were 100 teams, and the distance between each team didn't exceed 8 million kilometers. In this way, they could communicate with each other through secret soul techniques, and they wouldn't lose contact with each other. 1 big fish and 4 small fish. Divide into 5 groups. 30,000 people go to the big fish, 5,000 people go to each small fish. Eat them all. When the news reached the Snow Air Emperor, the Snow Air Emperor immediately gave the order. The big fish represented 5,000 people, while the small fish represented 500 or 1,000 people. The net tightened, and by the time the enemies found out, they would have nowhere to run, as human soldiers were everywhere. Boom! Each moved quickly. The dragon's spring sword was unsheathed, and a beam of sun-like sword chi pierced out. In a straight line, at least dozens of people were killed by this sword chi. The power of the extreme sun essence was extremely sharp. This was the time to snatch the enemies. Whoever made the first move, whose ultimate move was more powerful, would gain the most. Those who were too slow wouldn't even get the leftovers. In less than 10 minutes, all the enemies were killed. Facing the human army, which was 10 times their number, they didn't even have the qualifications to make a splash. After cleaning up the battlefield, the 100 teams spread out again, continuing to spread the net. "Commander, do you think we will encounter that 50,000 demons army this time?" Yi Chen's deputy, a junior commander, chatted with Yi Chen. "The probability is very low, but it's not impossible." The Black Tortoise ruins had a diameter of several hundred light years. On average, there were over 10 million people wandering around the ruins every day. The reason why there were so many was because the various races treated this place as a battlefield. There were humans, giants, barbarians, demons, evil spirits, yakshas, and other weaker races. However, even though there were many of them, there weren't many of them when they were spread out. It was easier said than done to encounter an evenly matched enemy army. Buzz! Just as the two were chatting, a spatial fluctuation suddenly appeared in the desolate ruins. This fluctuation was extremely vast, causing people's hearts to tremble. It should be known that the outer space was different from Elysium space. The space here was the true space, containing the profound origin of the universe. Even ninth-layer life and death supremes couldn't create such a vast spatial fluctuation. Spatial fluctuation, what's going on? Everyone discussed spiritedly. Snow Air Emperor's brows creased. After a while, she said, "Everyone gather. Let's go to the origin of the fluctuation." She had a feeling that this fluctuation was not ordinary. It would be a pity not to go and take a look. 50,000 people gathered once again. Under Snow Air Emperor's lead, they flew toward the origin of the fluctuation. The origin of the fluctuation was very far away. At this time, it was simply impossible to ride on the puppet battleship. The frightening spatial fluctuation could easily distort the battleship. 3 days later, everyone finally arrived near the origin of the fluctuation. "It's right in front. Don't be careless," Snow Air Emperor warned. As they got closer to the origin of the fluctuation, more and more people appeared. Some were enemies, and some were allies. However, no one intended to kill each other at this time. Of course, they didn't dare to get too close to each other either. Finally, everyone found the origin of the fluctuation. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. In their line of sight, a vast group of palaces appeared. The main color of the palaces was white, giving off a dignified and sacred feeling. Above the palaces was a black hole with a white edge. Clearly, the palaces came from the black hole. Otherwise, how could they not have discovered it before? The palaces were extremely huge. Every gate was several tens of thousands of li tall. The white pillars on both sides could be said to reach the sky, extending all the way into the black hole. Above them, there were two huge python carvings. The entire group of palaces emitted a hazy white sacred radiance. Under the illumination of the sacred radiance, the space of the ruins fluctuated unceasingly like a tide. Fortunately, although these fluctuations were frequent, they didn't contain any destructive power. The premise was that one didn't ride on the puppet battleship. Otherwise, one wouldn't even know how they died. Chapter 11:20. Could this be a miracle? In front of Yi Chun, the black, mysterious monarch blurted out, but he didn't seem too sure. A miracle? Yi Chun sized up the black, mysterious king. From the latter's expression, he could tell that this word did not refer to a miracle that everyone was talking about. It should refer to something real. Apart from miracles like the paradise of God, I've never seen any other miracles. I've only heard of them. But judging from this vast fluctuation and sacred aura, it should be a miracle. The myriad arrow monarch's heart stirred. What is a miracle? Yi Chun asked. The myriad arrow monarch explained. A miracle is the power of a true god in the mortal world. A true god can turn stone into gold, change the rules, and turn something rotten into something magical. Even a stone, as long as it is stained with a true god's power or aura, it will become extraordinary and become a rare treasure in the mortal world. Hearing the myriad arrow monarch's explanation, Yi Chun slightly nodded. God's star, God's ship, God's trial field, God's paradise, these were all unimaginable existences. They could only be described as miracles. And this group of shrines didn't seem to be inferior to the paradise of God. A miracle can only be chanced upon. Everyone get ready. In front of everyone, the Snow Air Emperor's voice resounded. In fact, even without the Snow Air Emperor pointing it out, everyone knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they missed this opportunity, they might not be able to encounter it again for the rest of their lives. Apart from the Snow Air Emperor and Yi Chun's side, there were also troops of other races in other directions. On the Devil race's side, there was a team of 50,000 people. The leader of the Devil race had 2 horns on his head and was extremely domineering. Beside him, there was a graceful female demon. This woman was about 8 meters tall and had extremely long legs. What was different from the Horned Devil race general was that the aura emitted from her body didn't have the slightest trace of devil chi. It was an overbearing and divine aura. Apart from the human clan and the demon clan, there were also many teams of 5,000 people present. Of course, most of them were teams of 1,000 people and 500 people. The total number of people was no less than 200,000 or 300,000, and it seemed like the number was increasing. Go! No one knew who was the first to fly towards the gate of the Divine Hall. Since there was a first, there would naturally be a second. In an instant, thousands of figures rushed towards the gate. Hiss! All of a sudden, the giant python relief on the sky-reaching pillar outside the gate of the Divine Temple came to life, its eyes shining with a red light. The giant python on the left extended its body and opened its mouth, sucking dozens of people into its mouth. The python on the right was unwilling to fall behind. With a flick of its tail, dozens of people were smashed into pieces. Not good, retreat quickly. Seeing this scene, the rest of the people flew back, and the people behind them unleashed their ultimate attacks, bombarding the giant python's body. Poo-pee-oo sounds rang out. Stone fragments flew everywhere, and shallow pits appeared on the giant python's body. The 2 pythons were infuriated. They broke off from the heaven pillar and slithered through the crowd. Those who were hit by them were all smashed to pieces. Their bodies were badly mangled, and their top-grade armors were useless. Everyone, let's attack together. Although the Snow Air Emperor was not in a hurry to fly towards the gate of the Divine Temple, she was very clear that if they did not take care of these 2 pythons, they would definitely not be able to enter the divine temple. These two pythons were too fast. With a low roar, the Snow Air Emperor was the first to attack. With a palm strike on the body of one of the pythons, a crack appeared on the python's body. The wound was covered in frost, and a dark blue color appeared. Kill! There were at least 200,000 to 300,000 people present. When they attacked together, it was extremely powerful. The dazzling light was 10 times denser than a meteor shower, continuously bombarding the giant python's body. The giant python's body became thinner at a speed visible to the naked eye. This was the sign of most of its body being annihilated. Bang! The sky was filled with flying stones. One of the pythons was killed. Don't worry about them. Let's go in first. The two-horned demon's general did not care about the other giant python and led the 50,000 demons into the divine temple's gate. The inside of the divine temple's gate was misty white. Once they entered, they would not be able to see anything. After a while, the remaining giant python was also shattered. Stones flew everywhere, turning the outside of the divine temple's gate into a meteorite field. Going quickly. If we are late, there will be nothing left. Like a swarm of bees, everyone rushed towards the divine temple's gate. Let's go in too. The Snow Air Emperor's figure flashed and turned into an icy blue shadow. Yi Chun and the others followed behind her. In the blink of an eye, there was not a single person outside the divine temple's gate. Everyone had entered the divine temple. Inside the divine temple, everyone is gone. Yi Chun's face flashed with surprise. Before entering, everyone was still together. After entering, he was the only one left. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chun looked around. This was a tunnel. The tunnel was straight and extended all the way to the end. Behind him was a wall. Without much hesitation, Yi Chun started walking towards the end of the tunnel. Soon, Yi Chun walked out of the tunnel. What appeared in front of him was a stone hall. There was only one door in front of the hall, which was closed. On the right side of the door was a cute stone rabbit statue. At this moment, many people were already standing in the hall. There were demons, yakshas, and green men. There were at least 50 of them. A faint smell of blood lingered in the air, as if a bloody battle had just taken place. Seeing Yi Chun, these non-humankind beings' eyes lit up. Just now, they had killed 7 human beings. Obviously, Yi Chun was also a human being. Dying instantly, more than 10 non-humankind beings joined hands and attacked Yi Chun. Yi Chun's expression remained unchanged. He unsheathed the dragon spring sword and waved it. Swoosh, 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 sword chi swept across the hall. How could these non-humankind beings be a match for Yi Chun? They were instantly killed, and the soul imprints in their bodies were destroyed by Yi Chun's destructive sword intent. This is troublesome. Let's go. The pupils of the other non-humankind beings shrunk, and they hurriedly flew towards the door in front of the hall. Yi Chun shook his head, but didn't make a move. He saw the eyes of the rabbit statue open, its lower body stood up, and its hind legs straightened, making it look like a small human. Swoosh! A gray shadow flashed past, and a non-humankind being was beheaded. Strangely, although this non-humankind being had an immortal body, the moment his head was beheaded, he seemed to have lost his soul, and thus his immortal body became a mere decoration. Soul absorption. Yi Chun's expression turned serious. Non-humankind beings died one after another. None of them could even last one round against the rabbit statue. As the number of non-humankind beings increased, the rabbit statue gradually became more and more real, and first started to grow on its body. Save me! The last demons flew towards Yi Chun, trying to divert the disaster. Yi Chun's body flashed, and he dodged. You will die a horrible death. Before this demon died, he cursed Yi Chun. Yi Chun didn't care about the demon's words. His eyes were fixed on the rabbit. At this moment, the rabbit was no different from a real rabbit. Its fur was soft, and its ears were long and drooping. The rabbit tilted its head and curiously looked at Yi Chun. However, its curiosity would cause fear in people. While it pretended to be cute, its legs were also gathering power. A gray shadow flashed, and the rabbit sprang towards Yi Chun. Sparks flew everywhere. Yi Chun blocked the rabbit's attack and even bounced it back. Without stopping, Yi-chun performed Moment of Glory and stabbed at the rabbit's throat. A strand of white fur floated in the air. Yi-chun's sword didn't kill the rabbit, but he could feel that it was like piercing a balloon, causing the rabbit's power to leak out. The rabbit's body turned back into a stone statue, and after a squeak, it crashed into the wall of the hall. No, it didn't crash, but merged with the wall, disappearing without a trace, as if it could go through the wall. God's power is truly unfathomable. Whether it was the python or the rabbit, they both had immense power, and they were nothing more than stones. After collecting all the storage rings, Yi-chun threw them into his own storage ring without even looking at them, then walked toward the door. Creak! The door opened automatically, and Yi-chun walked in. Death was happening all the time. The majority of people started to regret entering the palace. If they were given another chance, they would choose to turn around and leave. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Snow Air Emperor was also regretting. She knew that of the 50,000 people she brought, more than half of them would die. However, high risk also meant high reward. According to the legends, although the place was dangerous, there were a lot of treasures inside. As long as one could find one and successfully bring it out, it would definitely be sold for a high price. In a huge plaza, tens of thousands of people had gathered, and the number kept increasing. Yi-chun, Myriad Arrow King, and the others discovered Yi-chun. You've arrived? Yi-chun walked over. Yeah, but the situation is not good. There are stone statues everywhere, and we've been surrounded. Myriad Arrow King pointed around the plaza. Yi-chun looked over and could not help but frown. There were indeed a lot of stone statues around the plaza. There were rabbit stone statues, piglet stone statues, pheasant stone statues, mountain goat stone statues. All in all of them looked rather cute. However, their power could not be described as cute at all. Instead, it was enough to make people's hair stand on end. Why aren't they attacking? Yi-chun felt that it was strange. Because of the plaza, as long as we stay in the plaza, we won't be attacked. Once we leave the plaza, we will be surrounded and killed. Many people have already been surrounded and killed. Zhang Yimin explained. Snow Air Emperor frowned deeply. Of the 50,000 people she brought, only 20,000 were left. They had lost more than half of them. Fortunately, the plaza was very safe. As long as they didn't leave the plaza, there shouldn't be any deaths. Otherwise, it was unknown how many people would survive. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, there was a sound of an explosion. Everyone looked towards the source of the sound. The general demons led the 4 demons out of the plaza and were surrounded by the stone statues. However, these stone statues obviously couldn't do anything to the general demons and were all sent flying. The general demons and the 4 demons quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Yi-chun, we will stay in the plaza. Myriad Arrow King and the others didn't plan to take the risk. The requirement for strength was too high. Without the strength of a combat emperor, it would be hard to move an inch. Although they knew that there would definitely be treasures in the place, they needed to be alive to enjoy them. All right, Yi-chun nodded. He also felt that it was better for Myriad Arrow King and the others to stay in the plaza. As for himself, he had to try his luck. This was a rare opportunity. Chapter 1121. After making the decision, the Snow Air Emperor, Yi-chun, and the 4 purple gold leaders left the square together, rushing toward the palace on the other side. Shoo, 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 shoo. As soon as the 6 left the square, they were surrounded by hundreds of stone statues. Follow me. The Snow Air Emperor's hands were ice blue, and there was a cold vortex in each of her palms. With a low shout, she pushed out her palms, creating 2 ice walls that were hundreds of miles long. The 6 of them were in between the 2 ice walls. The stone statues were very powerful, and the ice walls kept breaking. However, breaking the ice walls required a moment, which was enough for the 6 of them to travel hundreds of miles. Then, 2 more ice walls were created, and the cycle repeated with the ice walls as a barrier. The 6 of them successfully reached the palace on the other side. Not many people could reach the palace on the other side. For demons, 6 humans and beasts, and 2 green men, for a total of 12 people. The space inside the palace was very wide. Even if a planet with a diameter of 10,000 miles was stuffed inside, it would not feel crowded. Compared to the palace, Yi Chun and the others were like dust. The 4 devil men and the 2 green men stood there in a daze, looking up at the end of the palace. At the end of the palace stood a 10,000 miles tall stone stele. Apart from that, nothing else could be found in the palace. Should we kill them? The purple gold leader beside the snow air emperor suggested. How could he not see that whether it was the demon general, the dark commander of the demon race, or the emerald commander of the green men race, they had all fallen into a strange state. In this state, their vigilance must have been greatly reduced, which was the best time to kill them. The snow air emperor shook his head. The danger of death will wake them up. The possibility of killing them is not high. Instead of that, we might as well see what secrets the stone tablet has. Then forget it. The purple gold leader who suggested this also felt that it would not be easy to kill the enemies. With a bitter smile, he immediately gave up on this idea. Raising their heads, the 6 of them looked at the stone tablet. The stone tablet was 30,000 miles wide and 10,000 miles tall. On it were countless dots and lines. The dots twinkled like stars, and the lines were messy. Some were straight, some were crooked, some were deep, some were shallow, some were thick, and some were thin. None of them were repeated. After a few breaths, the 6 of them also fell into a strange state. In Yi Chen's eyes, the dots and lines on the stone tablet seemed to have come alive. The stone tablet was like a vast starry sky. The dots were like endless stars, and the lines were like the connections between everything in the world. Everything seemed to be in disorder, but it was actually in order. There was no absolute boundary between disorder and order, only an inseparable connection. Crackle! A bolt of lightning streaked across the Soul Sea, lighting up the surface of the sea. Countless fragmented pieces of information that seemed unrelated but were actually closely related were captured by Yi Chun. In the next instant, the dots and lines in Yi Chen's eyes changed again. The dot was a golden sun, surrounded by flames, shining brightly. The line connected the 3 together. No matter how stupid Yi Chun was, he knew that this was the secret of the extreme sun essence. Involuntarily, Yi Chun pulled out the dragon spring sword and started practicing the sun essence extreme sword art. But in fact, Yi Chun didn't move at all. Neither did he pull out the dragon spring sword. So that's how it is. Yi Chun's sword art became more and more profound, more and more immeasurably profound. Gradually, Yi Chen's sword movements merged with the lines on the stone tablet. The tip of the sword became the dot on the stone tablet, flickering, yet extremely bright. As Yi Chun swung the sword, an extremely dazzling sword chi darted out. This sword chi was different from the usual sword chi. In the past, the sword chi had been moving in a straight line, but now, although it was still moving in a straight line, it had changed qualitatively. A trace of black had appeared in the sword chi, and it was this trace of black that had boosted the power of the extreme sun essence. The extreme sun essence. Although the extreme sun essence was still a 3rd revolution sword art, its power had reached the extreme limit of the 3rd revolution sword art. Even though the extreme sun essence had been upgraded to the extreme sun essence, Yi Chun hadn't finished comprehending. In his eyes, the dots and lines on the stone tablet had changed again. The dots were virtual dots, while the lines were spatial trajectories. Those intertwined lines seemed to be intertwining with each other, but in fact, they were thousands of miles away from each other. 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions for dimensions, countless lines propped up a never-ending space. The space was boundless, but there were nodes. These nodes provided the rules and stability. When the lines and the dots intersected, all the changes disappeared and the space froze. This time, it was the profoundness of momentary glory. Momentary glory contained the profound of space, which was not an ordinary profound. When the profound of space reached the extreme sun essence, Yi Chun didn't know how strong it would be. He had been guessing, but looking at the dots and lines on the stone tablet, Yi Chun knew that once the profound of space reached the extreme sun essence, its power would be 10 times or even 100 times stronger than what he had imagined. It might even surpass the 3rd revolution sword art, and reached the fourth revolution sword art. Moreover, whether or not momentary glory could fully display the profoundness of space was still unknown. Perhaps in the future, Yi Chun could create an even stronger profound of space sword arts. Of course, Yi Chun's current profound of space was only at 80% completion. It was still too far away from reaching the extreme sun essence. As for the current momentary glory, its power was similar to the white dragon exterminating the world. It was an ordinary third revolution sword art. Dots and lines. Dots and nuts. Dots and nuts. Lines and lines. Gradually, Yi Chun's comprehension of the profound of space became deeper and deeper. His comprehension of the momentary glory became deeper and deeper. When he stabbed out, the path of the sword changed, and the power that erupted was enough to freeze the space and destroy everything. After an unknown amount of time, Yi Chun stabbed out again. This time, the path of the sword was ethereal. It looked like it was in the sky, but it was actually right in front of him. As the sword stabbed out, the space suddenly froze. No, it was not as simple as just freezing. The world seemed to have shrunk, and distance was no longer an obstacle. Under this sword, even ghosts and gods couldn't escape. The profound of space was almost at 90% completion. At this moment, the power of the momentary glory was only slightly weaker than the extreme sun essence, but the attack method surpassed it. In different people's eyes, the dots and lines on the stone steel were different. Yi Chun's sword art was improving by leaps and bounds, and the 11 people who were comprehending were also improving rapidly. But at this moment, what was important was comprehension. The higher one's comprehension was, the faster they would comprehend, and the greater the effect of the stone steel. Yi Chun's comprehension wasn't unique, but it was still rare in the world. After raising 2 sword arts to the peak of the third revolution, Yi Chun's comprehension continued. He was comprehending the third supreme sword art. The dots were seeds, and the lines were lightning and fire. Wood profound, thunder profound, and fire profound. These 3 profounds were intertwined. Fire could burn wood. Lightning could also strike trees and create a big fire. Between the 3, there was a definite connection. Among the 12 people, the first to wake up was the Emerald Commander of the Green Men race, the Blue Devil King. The Blue Devil King was nearly 3 meters tall, and his green muscles were extremely developed, containing unfathomable power. Behind him, a thick crocodile-like tail dragged on the ground. Looking around, his expression turned gloomy. Among the 12 people, he was the first to wake up, which meant that his comprehension was the lowest. How could he, who had always been conceited, not take a blow? After all, he was also an Emerald Commander in the Green Men race, and there were less than 20 Emerald Commanders in the Green Men race. He could be said to be the elite of the elites, the expert of the experts. My Blue Devil Fist has already reached the third revolution, and it has improved a lot just now. Other than the Demon's General and that Human General, the rest might not be my match. Demons can't move. Humans and demons? The Blue Devil King's gaze shifted from the 4 demons to Yi Chun and the other 5 people. Silently, the Blue Devil King moved toward Yi Chun. Among the 6 people, Yi Chun was only a commander-in-chief. In the Blue Devil King's opinion, he should be the weakest. Moreover, even if Yi Chun had the strength of a purple gold commander, he was 100% confident that he could kill him in one strike. Die. Leaping up, the Blue Devil King punched toward Yi Chun's head. A blue fist force penetrated through his body and transformed into a blue demon head, biting toward Yi Chun. Third revolution martial art, Blue Devil Fist. Seeing that the fist force was about to hit Yi Chun suddenly moved. Without opening his eyes, he pulled out the dragon spring sword purely by instinct and slashed out. This sword was extremely fast and fiery. It was as if this sword could burn a world, a part of heaven and earth. Third revolution extreme sword art, true inferno sword. The Blue Devil King's expression changed to one of extreme fear. The fist force he had sent out was like spring snow meeting the scorching sun, melting away into nothingness. In the next moment, his chest was hit by the sword. If it was any other martial art, this sword strike would at most cut him into pieces through the Heavenly King armor, and he could still recover with his immortal body. However, Yi Chen's sword strike had transmitted a domineering and fiery sword force through the Heavenly King armor. This fiery sword force was using his body as fuel, burning fiercely and filling the air with electric arcs. The Blue Devil King only had time to let out a miserable cry before he was completely burned, turning into a wisp of green smoke and dissipating. The true Inferno Sword's first wave of lethality might not be as strong as the Sun Essence transformation, but it was strong in the aftermath. As long as one came into contact with a little of the true Inferno Sword's sword force, they would immediately suffer the pain of being burned by raging fire and being devoured by violent lightning. If one was slightly weaker, they would be burned into nothingness on the spot, and their soul imprint would be obliterated. The true Inferno Sword combined with the Destruction Sword intent wasn't something to be trifled with. The Blue Devil King wasn't weak, barely having the strength of a mid-level combat emperor. If it was the previous Yi Chen, he definitely wouldn't be able to kill him with a single sword strike. However, the current Yi Chen was improving at a godly speed, and mid-level combat emperors were no longer his match. As for the true Inferno Sword, it was formed by Yi Chen's fusion of the heavenly lightning and earthly fire and the raging spring incineration. These two extreme Second Revolution sword arts contained the profound meaning of fire, and when fused together, there was simply nothing that it couldn't burn. After killing the Blue Devil King, Yi Chen still hadn't woken up. Just now, he had only instinctively sensed danger and instinctively attacked. He could only blame the Blue Devil King for having evil thoughts and getting killed instead. The strange thing was that despite such a huge commotion, no one present was awakened. Come to think of it, the influence of the monolith in the palace was too great. As long as they didn't sense any danger, they wouldn't be awakened. As for Yi Chen, he was even more immersed in it. Even if he sensed danger, he still wouldn't be awakened. Chapter 1122. True Inferno Sword was Yi Chen's third peak, third revolution sword art, each of which had its own specialties. Extreme Sun Essence Transformation pursued the pinnacle of attacks. Momentary Glory pursued the splendor of a single sword. Even ghosts and gods would find it hard to escape. True Inferno Sword's aftershock was frightening, incinerating everything. With these three-peak third revolution sword arts, Yi Chen's sword arts had reached a limit that he wouldn't be able to break through for a long time. The only things left for him to break through were Cultivation Base, Sword Domain, and Sword Soul. As for Cultivation Base, it couldn't be rushed. He was already at the 5th layer of Life and Death Realm, and wanting to break through to the 6th layer would take at least 100 or 200 years. After all, he had to build a solid foundation and accumulate power for the 7th layer. He couldn't rush to the 6th layer as soon as possible and lose his foundation, which would be very short-sighted. Of course, with the Time Tower, he could shorten the time by 100 times. 100 or 200 years by 100 times was only 1 or 2 years, which wasn't too long. As for Sword Domain, it couldn't be rushed. The higher one Sword Domain was, the harder it would be to improve. It wasn't like Cultivation Base, which could be improved as long as one had enough time. It was the embodiment of a sword artist's Sword Dao cultivation. The higher the realm of Sword Dao, the stronger the Sword Domain. Without sufficient foundation in Sword Dao, it would be hard to achieve anything in one's lifetime. On the other hand, Sword Soul had great potential. Yi Chen possessed 2 great sword souls. Immortal Sword Soul had long since reached the 7th step. As long as Destruction Sword Soul also reached the 7th step, the 2 7th step sword souls would resonate and advance by leaps and bounds. He could already feel that Destruction Sword Soul was showing signs of breaking through. It should be known that there was a huge gap between the 7th step and 8th step for ordinary martial souls or sword souls. Countless people were stuck at this point. Even titled monarchs of the 7th layer couldn't make any progress. Yi Chen's 7th step Immortal Sword Soul was equivalent to an ordinary 8th step sword soul, and his peak 6th step Destruction Sword Soul was equivalent to a peak 7th step sword soul. In terms of sword soul, he was a bit stronger than some title monarchs. After creating the true Inferno sword, Yichen still hadn't woken up. On the steel, dots and lines combined, transforming into sword chi. These sword chi were illusory and traceless, as if they had never existed. It can't be ordinary sword chi. Ordinary sword chi shouldn't be so illusory, as if it doesn't exist. Could it be soul sword chi? An idea flashed through Yi Chen's mind. Yi Chen's guess was right. The stone tablet was displaying the soul sword chi. There were many different kinds of soul attacks. Some soul attacks could turn soul power into hammers to smash the enemy's soul, or turn it into sharp arrows, or turn it into a golden ring to entangle the enemy's soul. Soul attacks couldn't be compared to martial arts. It was extremely difficult to control and even more difficult to create. Moreover, it consumed a lot of soul power. Therefore, soul attacks had always been used as support in battle. No one would waste most of their time on cultivating soul attack secret arts. The gains didn't make up for the losses. However, this didn't mean that the soul attack wasn't important. If the soul attack was strong, it would give you a trump card that your enemy would be afraid of. After all, if your enemy couldn't defend against your soul attack, their soul would definitely be heavily injured and their combat power would decrease. In this way, the effect of the soul attack could be imagined. As for the soul sword chi, one could tell from its form that it was extremely terrifying. Ordinary soul defenses would probably be easily sliced apart by the soul sword chi. Carefully observing the combination of dots and lines on the stone tablet, Yi Chen tried to arrange his soul power to form a soul sword chi. Buzz! A soul sword chi shot out, but scattered midway. The arrangement was still not tight enough, nor was it stable enough. While Yi Chen was studying the soul sword chi, Tyrant Sword King, one of the 4 purple gold commanders beside him, woke up. This is great. My Tyrant Sword King hasn't improved for decades. I didn't expect it to improve so much this time. It saved me decades of hard work. Tyrant Sword King smiled. Why are there armors and weapons scattered on the ground? Tyrant Sword King inadvertently noticed the armor and gloves not far in front of Yi Chen. Who killed the Blue Devil King? An angry roar was heard. Another Emerald Greenman commander, Green Shadow King, also woke up. Seeing that the Blue Devil King was not there, he looked around and quickly found the Blue Devil King's equipment. Did you kill the Blue Devil King? Other than him, only Tyrant Sword King was awake. Green Shadow King stared at Tyrant Sword King with murderous intent. I didn't kill him. Tyrant Sword King did not look too good. If you didn't kill him, then why did the Blue Devil King die? Green Shadow King had his eyes set on Tyrant Sword King. Tyrant Sword King smiled coldly. So what if I did kill him? You green men are the enemies of humans. You deserve to die. You're courting death. Green Shadow King's figure flashed and turned into a green shadow, charging toward Tyrant Sword King. Get lost. Clang. Tyrant Sword King pulled out his sword and slashed. Saber chi flew everywhere. The two fought for a while. The ghost-clawed Lion King, one of the 3 purple gold commanders beside Yi Chen, opened its eyes. Tyrant Sword King, I'll help you. Without any hesitation, the ghost-clawed Lion King pounced and joined forces with Tyrant Sword King to attack Green Shadow King. Green Shadow King's strength was not as strong as Tyrant Sword King. Now that the ghost-clawed Lion King had joined forces, it was forced to retreat. It looked like it was about to be injured by the two. Humans and demons are really shameless. Bullying with numbers. Very well, let me, the Tiger Demon King, have a taste of your skills. On the other side, the Dark Commander of the Demons, the Tiger Demon King, joined the battle. The Tiger Demon King was a demonic beast, which was equivalent to a demon beast. Gradually, other than Yi Chen, the Snow Air Emperor, the General of the Demons, and the demons, the Witch of the Demons, who had yet to regain their senses, the rest of the people had regained consciousness. The battle on the battlefield was intense, and energy was everywhere. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. Let's kill that General of the Demons. With 4 against 3, the humans and demons had the upper hand. At that moment, the Flying Blade King, one of the purple gold commanders, suddenly locked onto the general of the demons and shot 49 flying blades at it. If you want to die, I'll grant your wish. However, the general of the demons did not know if it had sensed the impending danger or if it had woken up a step earlier. Seeing the sudden attack of the flying blades, it did not even think twice and threw a punch. Pitter-patter. The powerful fist force not only smashed the 49 flying blades into pieces, but the flying blade fragments even rolled back, turning the Flying Blade King into minced meat. His soul imprint was obliterated, but the flying blade fragments' momentum did not dissipate. They went straight for the defenseless Snow Air Emperor and Yichun. It seemed that the general of the demons intended to kill them all in one fell swoop. The Snow Air Emperor opened her eyes, and with a shout, she struck out with her palm. The temperature of the air dropped by 1,000 times, and an ice wall froze the flying blade fragments and the terrifying fist force that was mixed in with the flying blade fragments. Demon Fist Emperor, it seems that your revolving fist force is not that great. The Snow Air Emperor sneered. The general of the demons was also a 3-star general, and his title was the Demon Fist Emperor. The revolving fist force was very powerful, and it could turn other people's attacks into his own to counterattack the opponent. Although the Flying Blade King was a purple gold commander and had the strength to challenge ordinary emperors, he was still much weaker than the Demon Fist Emperor. Coupled with the uniqueness of the revolving fist force, it was equivalent to being attacked by the Demon Fist Emperor and himself together. It would be strange if he did not die. Boasting shamelessly, the Demon Fist Emperor let out a deep roar, and the demonic power belonging to the 7th layer of life and death realm ferociously erupted. For a moment, black chi curled up and demonic shadows soared. A frightening pressure swept out in all directions. The reason why 7th layer life and death realm experts could become emperors was because they had already broken through the Unita Emperor realm and condensed the Emperor imprint. The Emperor imprint fused with their own energy, allowing them to perfectly display every bit of power. Although battle emperors had the strength to fight ordinary emperors, that was only in terms of attacking power. In terms of foundation, they were far inferior to emperors. Bang! When the demonic power was pushed to the limit, the Demon Fist Emperor fiercely punched out. The powerful fist force even caused the void to freeze. Although the Dark Profound was inferior to the Space Profound, it similarly contained the power to freeze all living things. When used by the Demon Fist Emperor, the might of this attack was actually not inferior to that of Yichun. From this, one could see how frightening the Demon Fist Emperor's strength was. Ice Seal. The Snow Air Emperor's palm arts contained the Water Profound, Ice Profound, and Wind Profound. The 3 great profounds fused together, creating a frighteningly low temperature. It should be known that when the temperature dropped to a certain level, the void would also freeze, and even time would stop flowing. Although the Snow Air Emperor was far from being able to do so, he was already not inferior to the Demon Fist Emperor's Dark Fist energy. Pop! The Dark Fist energy and the freezing palm energy collided. There was no earth-shaking explosion, only a black and white light sphere. The light sphere rapidly expanded and eventually exploded, seeming to have exhausted all of its power. Snow Air Emperor, take my sacred soul arrow. It wasn't the Demon Fist Emperor who launched the attack, but the demon girl who emitted a sacred aura. She opened her eyes, and a sharp arrow made of soul power shot out, sinking into the Snow Air Emperor's sea of soul. The Snow Air Emperor's face paled. This sacred soul arrow was extremely overbearing. Her soul defense had already cracked, and if she were to use it again, there would definitely be a gap in her soul defense. Moreover, she was currently fighting the Demon Fist Emperor and couldn't divert her attention to deal with this demon girl. This demon girl was rather cunning. Knowing that she couldn't help the Demon Fist Emperor in terms of combat power, she chose to use soul attacks. Hee hee, looks like you're going to die here. The demon girl smiled coquettishly and launched another sacred soul arrow at the Snow Air Emperor. Puff! Nothingness collided. The holy soul arrow dissipated in the air. What dispersed? It was a sharp sword chi. This sword chi was formed from soul power. Soul sword chi. The demon girl was shocked and looked at Yi Chun. The one who launched the soul sword chi was naturally Yi Chun. He had already woken up. Let me help you. As he spoke to the Snow Air Emperor, Yi Chun launched 2 soul sword chi at the demon fist emperor. The demon girl's expression changed slightly. She had already launched 2 sacred soul arrows, which consumed a lot of her soul power. If she launched 2 more, she wouldn't be able to use soul attacks anymore, or it would affect her combat power. However, she could not help the demon fist emperor. The demon fist emperor could fight against the Snow Air Emperor, but she didn't have the strength. Swish, swish. 2 sacred soul arrows went against the soul sword chi. However, what surprised her was that the soul sword chi was extremely flexible, like a swordsman displaying a peerless sword art. The sacred soul arrow only blocked 1 soul sword chi, while the other cut the soul chi of the demon fist emperor. Oomph. The demon fist emperor groaned and felt a splitting headache. Yi Chun's soul sword chi had actually torn a hole in his soul defense. The soul sword chi penetrated and wreaked havoc. Although it wasn't enough to seriously injure his soul, it was still dangerous. As long as Yi Chun launched another soul sword chi, he could only escape. Boom! Chi exploded as the demon fist emperor shook off the Snow Air Emperor and pulled away. Chapter 11:23. Everyone stop! The demonic fist emperor yelled. Although they were unwilling, the Tiger Demon King and the other Dark Commanders all stopped. The Green Shadow King was weak, and naturally, he would know when to stop. Demonic Fist Emperor, searching for the miraculous relic is more important. Let's not bother with him this time, the witch whispered to the Demonic Fist Emperor. The Demonic Fist Emperor nodded. He did not plan to continue fighting, or else he would not have asked everyone to stop. Of course, this did not mean that he was afraid of the other party. If they really fought, it was hard to tell who would win. Let's go. The Demonic Fist Emperor stared at the Snow Air Emperor and Yi Chun before turning to leave. The others followed. Farewell, Demonic Fist Emperor. The Snow Air Emperor smiled. Oomph. The next time we meet, you won't be so lucky. The Demonic Fist Emperor's voice came from afar. At least they know what's good for them. The Tyrant Sword King glanced at the armor and weapons left behind by the Flying Sword King. It was a pity that the Flying Sword King was too impulsive. If he did not attack the Demonic Fist Emperor, he would not have died. If we really fight, it will only be a lose-lose situation. It's not worth it. The Snow Air Emperor let out a sigh and said. Yi Chun faintly nodded. Although the Demonic Fist Emperor had been struck by his soul sword chi, another one would at most severely injure his soul. As a demon general, he certainly had many tricks up his sleeve. Moreover, that dark goddess was not a pushover either. The might of the sacred soul arrow was only slightly inferior to his soul sword chi. Searching for the miraculous relic is more important. Everyone be careful. Emperor Shui Kong glanced at the monolith and shook his head. When he looked at the monolith again, he could no longer immerse himself in that wondrous state of enlightenment. It seemed that this monolith could only allow them to comprehend the Tao once in a short period of time. Thinking about it, the reason why they could comprehend the Tao, other than the mysteriousness of the monolith, was related to their accumulation. Without knowledge, how could they comprehend it? There was a door on each side of the stone tablet. The Demonic Fist Emperor and the others entered through the door on the left, while Yi Chun, the Snow Air Emperor, and the others entered through the door on the right. There are so many doors. After passing through a corridor, they arrived at a spacious stone hall. In front of them were 108 doors. Of these 108 doors, 5 of them were sealed by walls of different colors. Break! The Snow Air Emperor slammed his palm against the chi wall. With a buzz, the chi wall rippled like water, dissipating the Snow Air Emperor's palm energy. Looks like someone has already entered the 5 doors. Could it be the Demonic Fist Emperor and the other 4? Ghostclaw Lion King guessed. Tyrant Sword King said, It should be them. Don't worry about them. We'll also choose a door to enter. The Snow Air Emperor immediately chose a door to enter. As she entered the door was immediately sealed by a blue-chi wall. So each door only allows one person to enter. Yi-Chen understood. Without any hesitation, Yi-Chen also entered one of the doors. The next moment, the door behind him was sealed by a green-chi wall. It was a very ordinary stone room. In the center of the stone room was a crystal pillar that was 10 meters tall. On the ground in front of the crystal pillar, a line of words was engraved. Attack the crystal vibration pillar with all your strength. The higher the vibration, the better your reward. Remember, go all out. Attack the crystal vibration pillar with all my strength? Yi-Chen was a little puzzled. He did not know what this crystal vibration pillar was. Of course, since he was asked to go all out, he would naturally do so. After all, this was related to his next reward. Buzz. 3 flowers appeared on top of his head. Yi-Chen displayed the 3 flowers borrowing way. Yi-Chen's Anatara realm was only at the first stage. The increase in combat power was not as great as the 3 flowers borrowing way. Once he reached the second stage, the 3 flowers borrowing way would truly be out of the picture. As for sword techniques, Yi-Chen chose to use the Sun Essence Extreme. Of the 3 major sword techniques, Instant of Glory's attack was the most powerful. The true Inferno Sword's follow-up was the strongest, and the Sun Essence Extreme's frontal attack was worthy of being number 1. Circulating his true essence to the limit, Yi-Chen took a deep breath and swung his sword. A dazzling sword aura shot out. Within the sword aura, there was a trace of black, causing the sword aura to emit a frightening pressure. Boom! The sword aura slashed heavily on the crystal vibration pillar. The next moment, a circle of red appeared under the crystal vibration pillar. The red grew higher and higher, almost turning the entire crystal vibration pillar red. 10,000. There was a scale on the crystal vibration pillar, and the red just happened to reach 10,000 scale. At the same time, the Snow Air Emperor and the others were also attacking the crystal vibration pillar. The Snow Air Emperor's was 1,000. The Tyrant Sword King's was 800. The Ghost-Clawed Lion King's was 700. Among the 5 stone rooms that the Demonic Fist Emperor and the Dark Goddess had entered, the Dark Goddess's scale was the highest at 2,400. The Demonic Fist Emperor and the Snow Air Emperors were about the same, at 1,000. If Yi-Chen knew everyone's scale, he would definitely be confused. The Snow Air Emperor and the Demonic Fist Emperor's battle power was higher than his. Even if it was not 10 times higher, it was at least 10 times higher. However, the Snow Air Emperor and the Demonic Fist Emperor's combined result was still not higher than his, equivalent to 1/5 of his. Only the Dark Goddess was slightly higher, but it was only 2,400. Rumble. At this moment, the stone room suddenly trembled and rose up like an elevator. About 10 breaths later, the stone room stopped moving. Crack! The originally seamless walls of the stone chamber suddenly parted, revealing an even larger stone chamber. An astonishing wave of heaven and earth yuan qi gushed out from it. Such a rich natural yuan qi. The natural yuan qi on the planet was very rich, but compared to the natural yuan qi in the stone room, it was not even 1%. Walking into this bigger stone room, Yi-Chen's eyes immediately fell on a round object on the stone table. This round object was a bit like an inkstone. It was palm-sized and dark yellow in color. Walking closer, Yi-Chen found that the inside of the inkstone was chaotic and almost empty. On the edge of the inkstone, there were 3 words, Yuan Stone Pool. Yuan Stone Pool. Yi-Chen frowned and tried to pick up the Yuan Stone Pool. The Yuan Stone Pool was very light. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was as light as a feather. After thinking for a while, Yi-Chen released his soul power and probed into the Yuan Stone Pool. How many Yuan stones is this? Yi-Chen finally knew why this thing was called a Yuan Stone Pool. As soon as he sent his soul power in, Yi-Chen was shocked. The Yuan Stone Pool had its own space, which was dozens of miles in radius. A wide river extended all the way to the end. This river was not water, but pieces of Yuan stones. In other words, countless Yuan stones had formed a Yuan Stone River. And at the source of the Yuan Stone River was a mountain peak. On the cliff of the mountain, there was a huge beast head. The mouth of the beast's head was huge, but it was closed. Swoosh! Yi Chen's soul power turned into a huge hand, scooping out tens of thousands of yuan stones from the yuan stone pool into the real world. It is indeed yuan stones. Feeling the rich energy inside the yuan stone, Yi Chen was sure of it. Chapter 1124. Yi Chen soon found out how many yuan stones the yuan stone river was made of. After leaving the soul mark in the center of the yuan stone river, Yi Chen knew everything about the yuan stone river like the back of his hand. There were exactly 10 billion yuan stones in the yuan stone river. Although Yi Chen had taken out tens of thousands of yuan stones, the huge beast head at the source of the yuan stone river had opened its mouth and continuously spat out yuan stones. According to its speed, it could spit out 300,000 yuan stones a day and 100 million a year. In other words, even if all the yuan stones were taken out, 100 years later, there would be another 10 billion yuan stones in the yuan stone river. This was an unscrupulous money tree, a treasure bowl. With this thought flashing through his mind, Yi Chen took out 10 million yuan stones at once and put them into his storage ring. In about a month, the yuan stone river would be filled up with these 10 million yuan stones, and Yi Chen would have another 10 million yuan stones. I don't need to worry about yuan stones anymore. Yi Chen let out a breath. A person's energy was limited, and it would be impossible for him to take care of everything. Whoever had more resources would undoubtedly have a natural advantage. With the yuan stone pond, Yi Chen could let go of the idea of making yuan stones and focus all of his energy on his sword art. Everything would be for the sake of his sword art. Putting away the yuan stone river, Yi Chen started to look around the whole stone room. Unfortunately, besides the yuan stone river, there was nothing else in the stone room. On the edge of the stone platform, where the yuan stone river was placed, Yi Chen found a gray button. If one did not look carefully, it would be hard to notice. He reached out his hand and pressed on the gray button. Crack! The wall on the opposite side of the stone room opened, and there was a tunnel leading downwards. Without thinking too much, Yi Chen walked down the tunnel. Soon, Yi Chen walked out of the tunnel and looked up. Thousands of miles away was a huge plaza, no different from the one he came from. What made him frown was that around the plaza, there were thousands of stone statues. They were no longer cute like rabbits and pigs, but fierce beasts like tigers, wolves, and lions. If there were no surprises, the battling power of these fierce beasts would be much more powerful than the cute ones. Yi Chen, the Snow Air Emperor, walked out from another tunnel and flashed once, appearing in front of Yi Chen. We should be in the second safe zone, Yi Chen said thoughtfully. The Snow Air Emperor nodded. Clearly, in the miracle, the plaza was a safe zone. There was one before, and now there was another. There would definitely be a third one. However, the further they went, the more powerful they would be. These fierce beast statues were not to be trifled with. Snow Air Emperor, Yi Chen. The other 3 purple gold commanders also came out and met up with Yi Chen. Thousands of meters away were the Demon Fist Emperor and the Dark Goddess. They're coming. Let's get to the plaza first. The Snow Air Emperor squinted. The fierce beast statues had already discovered them and were flying over. Let's go. In a flash, the Snow Air Emperor went to meet the fierce beast statues. At the very front was a cheetah sculpture. The cheetah sculpture's speed was extremely fast, leaving the beast behind it more than 10 miles away. It leapt into the air, and its sharp right claw was mixed with destructive cold light as it attacked Emperor Shuekong. The cheetah statue was fast, but the Snow Air Emperor was even faster. Her figure swayed slightly and avoided the claw. Her left hand instantly slapped the statue's chest. Bang! The cheetah statue turned into an ice sculpture and fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. With the Snow Air Emperor as the spearhead, Yi Chen and the other 3 were not surrounded by the many fierce beast statues. However, it was difficult for them to advance. The strength of these fierce beast statues was close to the purple gold commander level. 1-on-1, anyone of the 5 could easily win. 1-on-2 was not a big problem, but 3-5 was the limit of the Tyrant Sword King and the other 2. 10 was Yi Chen's limit, and there were more than 10, 20, or even thousands of fierce beast statues. Dang, dang, dang. Yi Chun pushed his sword arts to the limit, blocking the attacks of the fierce beast statues one after another. Occasionally, there would be a fish that slipped through the net, but he could only take it head-on. Fortunately, Yi Chun was wearing a full set of silver armor, which gave him an astonishing defense. These fierce beast statues could not break through his defense for a while. Of course, defending for a long time was bound to fail. As time went on, even Yi Chun had no confidence in escaping unscathed. Frozen Century. In front, Empress Shui Kong let out a delicate shout and pushed out 2 ice walls with both hands, isolating the ferocious beast sculptures outside. "Let's go," the Snow Air Emperor said quickly. Yi Chun and the other 3 did not dare to be negligent. They followed closely behind the Snow Air Emperor, pushing their speed to the limit. They were very clear that if they were surrounded by the fierce beast statues, only death would await them. Only an 8th layer life and death expert would dare to ignore so many fierce beast statues. Gotcha! After a few steps, the ice walls were destroyed. Left with no other choice, the Snow Air Emperor continued to create ice walls while Yi Chun continuously waved his true burning sword. Although the sword's attack power was not as high as the sun refinement, its powerful momentum allowed it to play a huge role. From time to time, the fierce beast statues would burst into flames, hindering the fierce beast statues behind them. After half a cup of tea's time, the 5 finally arrived at the plaza. So close. The Ghost Claw Lion King wiped off its sweat. Now, let's just wait to be transported out. Tyrant Sword King did not intend to continue exploring the miraculous sight. In any case, he had gained a lot in the stone room. The Snow Air Emperor and Yi Chun also did not intend to continue exploring the miraculous sight. Not to mention the fact that they had already gained a lot. Whether they could leave the plaza alive or not was still a problem. Among the 5, none of them asked each other what they had gained. They all preferred to keep their wealth to themselves. The demonic Fist Emperor and the rest arrived at the plaza a bit later than them. However, they lost a Dark Commander along the way. Out of tacit understanding, neither side attacked the other, as if there was no need to risk their lives. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Buzz, buzz. The space rippled, and the 9 of them instantly disappeared from the plaza. When they reappeared, they were at the entrance of the temple cluster. The entire temple cluster was flying toward the black hole, becoming smaller and smaller. After a few breaths, the temple cluster completely disappeared, and the black hole shrunk to a point before disappearing with a pop. Unfortunately, I'm not strong enough. I don't know when I'll be able to see the miraculous sight again. The 1,000 Arrow King and the rest did not gain anything, and their faces were filled with regret. There's always a chance. Yi Chun was definitely the biggest winner of this trip to the miraculous sight. The Temple Stone Tablet had allowed him to gain 3 peak 3rd transformation sword techniques and a secret soul attack technique, Soul Sword Chi. The value of the primary stone pool was immeasurable. Yi Chun would not even sell 1 trillion primary stones, because the primary stone pool could produce 100 million primary stones every year. After 10,000 years, its value would exceed 1 trillion primary stones. With an almost endless supply of primary stones, Yi Chun would buy a large Overlord-level warship. Next year, he planned to return to Elysium and bring everyone out. Chapter 1125. Name, Yi Chun. Rank, Major Commander. Killed 2,430 enemies. 1 Commander, 6 Major Commanders, 18 Minor Commanders, 66 Centurions, 420 high-grade soldiers, 735 middle-grade soldiers, and 1,184 low-grade soldiers. Killed 2 Commanders, 11 Major Generals, 29 Minor Generals, 109 Centurions, 710 high-ranking soldiers, 1,200 middle-ranking soldiers, and 1,919 low-ranking soldiers. You may be promoted to Commander. Military contribution points, 2,083 million. Individual contribution points, 5 stars. Average contribution points, 5 stars. Yi Chun's battle record could be said to be perfect, but the entire team's battle record was somewhat terrible. The team had 50,000 people, but they had lost 26,885 people and killed 31,200 enemies. If the team had a small number of people, they could allow the number of enemies killed to be less than the number of losses. However, if the team had a large number of people, it was not allowed, not to mention 50,000 people. Under normal circumstances, for a team of 50,000 people, losing more than 5,000 people was considered a lot. Controlling the losses to be below 3,000 was considered excellent. Of course, if they encountered an enemy team of 50,000 people, it would be an exception. In such circumstances, losing 20 to 30,000 people was normal. No matter what, the Snow Air Emperor was the commander of this team. Losing so many soldiers, she would inevitably have to bear some responsibility. As for what responsibility, Yichen did not know. The commander badge was purple, noble, and domineering. Right now, Yichen had 3 badges, one for a low-grade soldier, one for a major commander, and one for a commander, all of which belonged to him. Golden Armor Planet's Master City, Golden Armor City. I'm sorry, but you need to become a purple gold commander or general to be able to purchase an Emperor-grade battleship. A middle-aged king wearing a major commander badge on his right chest said, with regret, below Emperor-grade battleship, one could purchase it as long as one had enough source stones. However, Emperor-grade battleships were control products, and source stones were not enough. One's military rank also needed to be high enough. Strictly speaking, only generals had the qualifications to purchase them. Purple gold commanders were an exception. After all, there were only about 50 purple gold commanders in the entire human race. How can I become a purple gold commander? Yichen asked. You only need to leave a mark on the Emperor's Scar Steel to become a purple gold commander. Emperor's Scar Steel? Yichen was not unfamiliar with this thing. Elysium had an Emperor's Scar Steel, but Elysium's Emperor's Scar Steel was far inferior to the real Emperor's Scar Steel. Before leaving Elysium, Yichen was able to leave a mark on it. Under the guidance of several staff members, Yichen arrived at the Emperor's Scar Steel testing area. You have 3 chances. As long as you can leave a mark on the Emperor's Scar Steel once, you can become a noble purple gold commander. Your treatment won't be any weaker than that of general. In terms of prestige, a purple gold commander wouldn't be inferior to a general. Another female lieutenant said, purple gold commanders are divided into 5 stars. The lowest is a 1-star purple gold commander, followed by 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, and the highest is a 5-star purple gold commander. Although no matter what commander you are, your military rank is the same, and you can't tell from your appearance, there's still a big difference in treatment. For example, a 1-star purple gold commander can only buy the lowest quality Emperor-grade warship, and it will be a small one. A 2-star purple gold commander can buy a slightly better quality small and medium Emperor-grade warship. As for a 3-star purple gold commander, there is no restriction. As long as you have enough source stones, you can buy any Emperor-grade warship. Yichen nodded. The other party had said so much because the higher the status, the better the treatment. In terms of military rank, an ordinary commander would be the same as a purple gold commander. A 1-star purple gold commander would also be the same as a 5-star purple gold commander. However, the treatment will be different. If one wanted to obtain better treatment, they would have to fight for these unseen honors. Start the test. We will judge your purple gold commander rank according to the depth of the mark. There were 3 major lieutenants and 5 minor lieutenants watching from the side. Nodding his head, Yichen looked at the 3 meters tall Emperor's Scar Steel. Without using the 3 flowers borrowing Dao, Yichen pulled out the dragon's spring sword and slashed at the Emperor's Scar Steel with the true Inferno sword. Puff! Bang! 2 sounds came from the Emperor's Scar Steel. One was the clear impact, and the other was the back impact. What a strong back impact. One of the lieutenants looked at the mark. The mark was scorched black, and it was 9 inches deep. 2-star, 2-star, 2-star. Everyone reported their data. Do we still want to continue the test? Yichen's current data was 2 stars. In other words, Yichen was already a 2-star purple gold commander. He was only missing a purple gold commander badge. Let's try again. This time, Yichen used the 3 flowers borrowing Dao. The powerful essence chi, and soul doubled as battle power. The Emperor Scar Steel didn't have any restrictions. Battle secret techniques were also a part of one's strength. In comparison, the selfless Emperor realm increased one's battle power even more. In this aspect, Yi Chun was at a disadvantage. Raising the dragon's spring sword high, Yi Chun slashed at the Emperor Scar Steel. Puff! An intense sword chi slashed at the Emperor Scar Steel. That trace of black made one's heart palpitate. The mark is 3, 5 inches deep, 3 stars. 3 stars. 3 stars. Congratulations. Among the 50 purple gold rank commanders, there are only 5 3-star purple gold rank commanders, including you. Yi Chen's strength made them understand that this person's future would be glorious. After all, he had such strength even before reaching life and death realm. Once he reached life and death realm, he would be invincible within the same realm. No, he would be able to surpass realms to battle. The purple gold commander badge was purple gold in color and had a star pattern on it. 1 star represented a 1-star purple gold commander, and 3 stars represented a 3-star purple gold commander. The place where the army bought warships. May I ask what kind of Emperor-grade warship you need? A large one, Yi Chen said. The most ordinary large Emperor-grade warship is worth 300 million yuan stones. Since you're a 3 stars purple gold commander, you can pay half first. The remaining half can be paid in installments. If you pay in 100 years, you'll need to pay 2 million per year. If you pay in 500 years, you'll need to pay 700,000 per year. If you pay in 1,000 years, you'll need to pay 500,000 per year. Paying in installments was very disadvantageous for the buyer. If you pay in 100 years, half of it would be 150 million, and the remaining 100 years would be 250 million, a total of 350 million, an extra 50 million. If you pay in 500 years, 150 million plus 350 million would be 550 million, an extra 250 million. If you pay in 1,000 years, 150 million plus 550 million would be 650 million, an extra 350 million. Of course, the army also had to bear a huge risk. After all, if you died, these yuan stones would be wasted. But seriously speaking, there were very few people who could afford an Emperor-grade warship. Even the most ordinary small Emperor-grade warship would cost 30 million yuan stones. How could an ordinary person have so much wealth? Even an ordinary general might not have it, not to mention a large Emperor-grade warship with 300 million and above. There were not many people who could afford it. If not for the unexpected yuan stone pond, Yi Chun would have to struggle for decades or even centuries to obtain such wealth. Don't worry about it. I'll pay in one go, but I want the best large Emperor-grade warship. If he wanted to buy, he would buy the best. Chapter 1126. One-time payment? The best large Emperor-grade battleship? The other party was inwardly shocked at Yi Chen's wealth. In fact, the fact that Yi Chun could pay 150 million yuan stones was already shocking enough. It should be known that even a future successor of a first-grade or second-grade faction wouldn't have several 100 million yuan stones, unless they were an 8th-layer life and death expert. However, Yi Chun was only a 3-star purple gold commander. There aren't many peak large Emperor-grade battleships. Their price is between 500 million and 600 million yuan stones. There's no such thing as the best. Peak Emperor-grade battleships had their own advantages. The more expensive one was not necessarily the best. Perhaps one wouldn't like this advantage. Take me to see it, Yi Chun said. All right. The other party nodded and led Yi Chun into the interior of the building. The interior of the building was extremely spacious, exceeding 20 li in length and width. Hundreds of Emperor-grade battleships were parked here. The outer perimeter was filled with small battleships. The middle was filled with medium battleships, and the core was filled with large battleships, numbering only 30 in total. The Golden Armored Star has a total of 33 large Emperor-grade warships, and 4 of them are the best of the best. This one is called the Golden Cutlass, and its material is equivalent to a high-grade defensive artifact. It is indestructible and can easily penetrate through a non-life planet with a diameter of several 100,000 li. Its defensive barrier can withstand the continuous attacks of a mid-grade combat emperor and is worth 500 million yuan stones. The Rottenwood warship is slightly inferior to the Golden Cutlass, but its defensive barrier is very strong and can withstand the continuous attacks of a high-grade combat emperor and is worth 520 million yuan stones. The Shadowless warship has a weaker defensive barrier, but it can conceal itself and is hard to detect with just one soul power, and is worth 550 million yuan stones. The Dezhong-class warship is not inferior to the Golden Cutlass, and its defensive barrier is better than the Rottenwood warship. The other party introduced the 4-peak Emperor-grade battleships one by one. Can I buy 2 of them? Yi Chen took a fancy to the Dezhong battleship, but he also felt that the Shadowless battleship was very interesting. Sorry, I can't do that. Purchasing an Emperor-grade battleship will be recorded. Each person can only buy 1 large Emperor-grade battleship. So it's like that. In that case, pick a peak small Emperor-grade battleship for me. Usually, when there were few people or traveling alone, it was more convenient to use a small Emperor-grade battleship. In any case, small Emperor-grade battleships weren't worth that many yuan stones. All right. The other party nodded and led the way. He was no longer surprised. Yi Chen had already spent 600 million source stones. Why would he care about a few million source stones? In his opinion, Yi Chen should have found a treasure trove in the starry skies. He had so much wealth that he had nowhere to go. Seeing how Yi Chen could easily spend 600 to 700 million source stones, Yi Chen's wealth should have exceeded 1 billion. The small Emperor-rank battleship that Yi Chen had chosen was called Phantom Shadow, and it was worth 70 million primal stones. Its defensive barrier could withstand continuous attacks from high-level combat emperors. Other than being 100 times smaller, it was not much worse than Dezhong Hao. The treatment of a 3-star purple gold commander wasn't just about being able to purchase an Emperor-class battleship. The greatest treatment was that one could fulfill the requirements of a city lord. In fact, a 1-star purple gold commander could fulfill the requirements. In other words, Yi Chen, who had become a 3-star purple gold commander, could become a city lord on one of the 4 major life star domains. A city lord was not only an honor, but also a symbol of wealth. The annual tax revenue of a city was quite astonishing. As long as one became a city lord, one could obtain a large amount of source stones without doing anything. Apart from this, the city lord position could also be inherited. After the death of the first city lord, his descendant or a designated person would inherit the position. Within 10,000 years, no one would have the right to take back the city. However, after 10,000 years, if no one could become a purple gold commander or reach the 7th layer of life and death realm, the city would be confiscated. For example, the current city lord of Blue Leaf City was the Blue Leaf clan's patriarch, and this city lord position was inherited by him. It had been several thousand years, and there were still 5,000 to 6,000 years before the deadline. During this time, as long as Lan Xian could reach the 7th layer of life and death realm, she could inherit the city lord position and become the city lord of Blue Leaf City. A Lifestar city had 2 grades, ordinary city and main city. On the other hand, Lifestars had 10 grades from lowest to highest grade: Grade 1 Lifestar, Grade 2 Lifestar, and Grade 9 Lifestar. Firebird Star was a Grade 2 Lifestar. The treatment of a 3-star purple gold commander was that he could choose any main city on a Grade 3 Lifestar as his territory. Of course, one could not just casually own a city. To become the city lord of a Grade 3 Lifestar's main city, Yi Chen first had to pay 300 million source stones to the upper echelons. He didn't have to pay it all at once, and could pay it in installments. Then, every year, 30% of the tax would go to the upper echelons, and the remaining 70% would go to him. However, this was a huge temptation for anyone. After all, even if one didn't think for oneself, one had to think for one's descendants. With a city, even if one's descendants didn't live up to expectations, they would still be able to enjoy glory for 10,000 years. Yi Chen didn't have much interest in the position of city lord, but he knew the importance of a city. With a city, it would be much easier for the Falling Dust Sword sect to take root in the 4 major life star fields. They could definitely become one of the overlords of this life star field. There are a total of 702 level 3 life-bearing planets in the 4 major life-bearing star fields. There are 7,200 main cities and 1,345 empty city lords. There are 350 in the Azure Dragon starfield, 380 in the White Tiger starfield, 320 in the Vermilion Bird starfield, and 295 in the Black Tortoise starfield. Which starfield do you want to choose? At the City Lord's registration office, a female king with a commander badge on her right chest asked. The Vermilion Bird starfield. Yichen thought for a while and replied, "Since you are a 3-star purple gold commander, you can choose the best grade 3 life star and the best main city. I have listed 10 of the best main cities for you. You can choose any one of them as your territory." A 3-star purple gold commander was too honorable, even more honorable than a 3-star general. After all, in the entire human race, there were only 5 3-star purple gold commanders, but 3-star generals were far more than that. Yichen looked through the list. These 10 main cities were indeed very good. Not only were the grade 3 life stars large, but they also had a high population. Their taxes were also the highest among all the main cities. In the end, Yichen chose Fiery Flower City. Fiery Flower City was one of the main cities of the Vermilion Bird Starfield's Flame Star Field. Its annual tax revenue was as high as 5 million yuan stones, and the main city's population was 2 billion. Of course, Fiery Flower City wasn't just a city. The surrounding several million li were all part of Fiery Flower City's territory. These several million li radius included many ordinary cities, towns, and small towns. With Fiery Flower City, Yichen could appoint his own people as the city lord of the surrounding cities, as well as the town mayor. If the Flame Star Field was a kingdom, then Yichen was a warlord. If the Flame Star Field was a continent, then Yichen was the emperor of a country, possessing immense power. In short, from now on, Yichen could be considered to have his own foundation, no longer a rootless duckweed. Chapter 11:27. After paying 300 million yuan stones in one go, Yichen obtained a City Lord's command token. This token itself was a heavenly king-grade weapon and was hard to destroy. It was useless to Yichen, but after Yichen's death, it would be the only proof for Yichen's descendants to inherit the City Lord's position. Losing it would be very troublesome. With the token, Yichen officially became the City Lord of Flame City. The upper echelons of the human race would come to collect taxes once every 100 years. Doing it once a year was too troublesome. Flame Star was located in the southeast of Vermilion Bird Starfield. It was a red planet with a diameter of 45 million li. There weren't many places suitable for human habitation on Flame Star, occupying less than 20% of the planet's surface area. However, it was rich in metal and fire attribute energy ores. Every day, many puppet battleships would come to transport metal and energy ores. Flame Star had 2 continents suitable for human habitation: the Southern Hemisphere's Fire Cloud continent and the Northern Hemisphere's Fire Crystal continent. Fire Cloud continent had 4 main cities, while Fire Crystal continent had 5. Yichen's Flame City was on Fire Crystal continent. As one of the main cities, Flame Flower City was shrouded in countless arrays and restrictions. These arrays and restrictions were extremely ancient, having existed for more than 10 million years. Every year, the consumption of yuan stones to maintain the arrays was estimated to be in the tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. Of course, Flame City's annual tax revenue was around 5 million yuan stones. Adding other income, it shouldn't be a problem to raise 7 to 8 million yuan stones. The cost of maintaining the arrays was only a fraction of the total. After all, the arrays could automatically absorb the yuan qi of the heaven and earth. The Flame City Lord Mansion occupied a vast area, like a city within a city. In a luxurious courtyard of the mansion, the acting City Lord, Iron Water King, was in a good mood. He smiled evilly at the beautiful woman in front of him, unable to move. This beautiful woman was also a king, and her cultivation base was not low. She had reached the 5th heavenly layer of life and death realm. Logically speaking, Fifth heavenly layer life and death realm experts were already at the level of great experts. However, at this moment, she was unable to move, as if under some kind of restriction. Rose King, you didn't expect to fall into my hands, did you? Iron King looked at the hot body of the Rose King, and his eyes flashed with passion. Of course, the most attractive thing about the Rose King was her temperament, which was more important than her appearance and body. It should be known that on Flamestar, the Rose King was undoubtedly the most beautiful king, and she was also the leader of the Rose family. Iron Water King, you despicable bastard. My Rose family is a big family in the Flamestar. Aren't you afraid that your ugly behavior will be spread out and made the whole world laugh at you? Rose King's face was full of anger. Iron Water King had wanted to make her his woman many years ago, but she had not agreed to it. Unexpectedly, Iron Water King had sent the Scarlet Fire Gang's 4 protectors to capture her. How lawless! This is a world where only the strong are respected. No one will choose to oppose me for your sake. In any case, I'm the substitute city lord of Flame City. Who would dare to do anything to me? As for you, I suspect that you've killed people in Flameflower City. Now, I'm going to interrogate you. Iron Water King's family had once been glorious. Flame City had been passed down by the old ancestor. However, ever since the death of the old ancestor, a 7th layer life and death king hadn't appeared in the family for 10,000 years. Since there were a lot of empty main cities, and they couldn't lack management, the upper echelons of the human race allowed Iron Water King to become the substitute city lord of Flameflower City. Only when the real city lord took office would he abdicate. By now, Iron Water King had been the city lord of Flameflower City for decades. Although Flameflower City's taxes had nothing to do with the acting city lord, besides taxes, there were countless places to earn primordial stones. The 4 great families, 3 great sects, and 2 great gangs of Flameflower City would give him a lot of primordial stones every year. Adding his own family's business, it was not an exaggeration to say that his annual income was no less than 3 million primordial stones. In the entire Flameflower City, Iron Water King's family could be said to cover the sky with one hand. Which of the 9 great powers didn't have to pay attention to his mood? He only needed to tell the Scarlet Fire Gang's leader that he was interested in Rose King, and the gang's leader immediately dispatched 4 protectors to secretly capture Rose King. You're only a substitute city lord. One day, someone will come and replace you. At that time, your family will also turn into ashes. How could Rose King not know that this was a world where only the strong were respected? She had already accepted her fate. However, one day, she would take revenge. Humph! My nephew is currently breaking through to the 7th layer of life and death realm. Once he succeeds, this Flameflower City will belong to my family once again. As for someone coming to replace me, I'm not afraid. My family has been passed down from my ancestor. He knows a lot of old friends, and the descendants of his old friends are also many experts. If the new city lord is a bit more obedient, he might be able to keep his position. Otherwise, he won't be able to bear the consequences. Iron Water King wasn't worried about his family in the slightest. There were many titled monarchs who were on good terms with his family. Although they weren't on Flamestar, he could still send someone to warn the other party. So this is Flameflower City. It's flourishing indeed. Walking on the incomparably spacious street and watching the stream of people coming and going, even with his tranquil state of mind, he couldn't help but feel a ripple in his heart. From today onwards, Sparkle City's 2 billion population, as well as the tens of billions in Inferno Flower City's territory, were all under his control. He was the king here, and the rules were up to him. With Falling Dust Sword sect taking root here, he wouldn't have to worry about its future development. Of course, Yi-chan would set up a sect rule to prevent people of other sects from causing a ruckus here. In the end, this is a world where the weak are prey to the strong. Yi-chan sighed with emotion. If he weren't a 3-star purple gold commander, he wouldn't have been valued by the upper echelons of human race, and he wouldn't have the power to decide the life and death of several billion people. I've arrived at the City Lord's mansion. Yi-chan arrived at the entrance of the mansion and stopped. This is the City Lord's mansion. Why haven't you left yet? The guard to the mansion ignored the fact that Yi Chun was a fifth-layer life and death expert and furiously shouted. Yi Chun sneered and took out the City Lord's command token. I'm Flame City City Lord, starting today. Flame City City Lord? The guards were a bit confused. Didn't Flame City already have a City Lord? How could they know that Iron Water King was only a substitute City Lord? Wait here, I'll go in and inform them. Iron Water King and his family's prestige was too deep, so the guards still didn't dare to let Yi Chun in. No need to go through so much trouble. Yi Chun waved his hand, and 2 rows of guards fell to the ground. Yi Chun walked straight in. Who dares to cause trouble in the City Lord's mansion? Do you want to die? The City Lord's mansion was huge. Yi Chun had only walked a few thousand meters when he was surrounded by a group of Iron Water King family's experts. The whole mansion was the Iron Water King family's lair. Yi Chun looked around and took out the City Lord's command token. City Lord's command token. The Iron Water King family's people all knew that Iron Water King was the substitute City Lord, not the real City Lord. So it's the new City Lord. My apologies, I was disrespectful just now. A person who seemed to be in charge of the Iron Water King family walked over with a smile and cupped his fists. Yi Chun said indifferently, "Where's the substitute City Lord?" "The substitute City Lord is busy. Why don't you come back in a few months? You shouldn't be in a hurry, right?" The person said with a smile. Chapter 11:28. Yi Chun raised his eyebrows. These people had been abusing themselves for so long that they couldn't even tell who was the master and who was the commoner. He didn't bother to be polite and said coldly, "Unrelated people, get out of the City Lord's mansion. Anyone who disobeys will be killed on the spot. Don't make life difficult for yourself." He had already found the substitute City Lord's location. He was indeed working. This isn't appropriate. The man's brows creased, and his face turned gloomy. Pung! Yi Chun clenched his left hand into a fist and punched the opponent's body. The powerful fist energy superimposed twice, double stacks. Spurting out blood, this man was also a fifth-layer life and death realm existence. However, in front of Yi Chun, he wasn't even as good as a chick. His vision blurred, and the next moment his chest felt like it had been struck by lightning. His body involuntarily flew out of the mansion and landed heavily on the street. One more word, and all of you leave. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Yi Chun's eyes swept over the rest. He wasn't joking with these people. If they really didn't listen to his orders, then there was no harm in killing them. Go! Seeing Yi Chun attack without the slightest frown, these people knew that he was not a pushover. If they continued to defy him, they would most likely be killed. Swish! His figure flickered, and Yi Chun instantly arrived at Iron Water King's luxurious courtyard. Who's there? Sensing someone's arrival, Iron Water King promptly turned around. "You're the substitute City Lord?" Yi Chun asked. Letting go of Rose King, Iron Water King tidied up his clothes and slowly turned around. Squinting his eyes, he said, "Who are you? What business do you have with me?" Taking out the City Lord's token, Yi Chun said, "You don't need me to say much, right?" Iron Water King's face turned extremely ugly. There were so many empty cities, so why did the other party choose Fiery Flower City? Moreover, he had taken up the position so quickly. Once he lost the status of substitute City Lord, he would no longer be able to shake the world like before. Most importantly, his clan's annual income would sharply decline. "Name your price. I can pay you a large sum of primordial stones as long as you give up Sparkle City and choose another main city," the Iron Water King said in a low voice. Yi Chun smiled. "No need. I like it here. Aren't you going to consider it? Source stones are not a problem. Of course, don't take me for a fool." Coupled with the reign of the great ancestor, the Taishui King family had been in Inferno Flower City for 70 to 80,000 years. The wealth accumulated over the past 70 to 80,000 years was amazing. Not tens of billions, but billions. Of course, his bottom line was 500 million. Anything more than that was out of the question. "I don't lack primal stones, so there's no need to think about it. All right, you can leave the City Lord's mansion now. Remember, bring all of your people out. I don't keep any random people here," Yi Chun said without hesitation. A trace of anger flashed in the Iron Water King's eyes, but a smile appeared on his face. Hee, I was just joking. It is my honor and my family's honor that you chose Fiery Flower City. However, you are new here, so it must be very difficult for you to manage such a big city. If you don't mind, I can help you. In his opinion, Yichen should not have time to manage a city. With him, the family would not suffer any loss, and he could still shake the world. It was like killing two birds with one stone. In the end, he could save a large sum of primordial stones. Don't listen to him. His family has colluded with the Nine Forces and made a lot of exorbitant taxes to divide the benefits of the people of Fiery Flower City. The people here are angry but dare not say anything. Many small families have even decided to move out of Fiery Flower City. The Rose King looked very embarrassed. His shirt was torn in half, exposing a white towering breast with a bright red tip. "Shut up," the Iron Water King shouted. "You can leave now." Yichen did not intend to keep the Iron Water King. If a new regime was to be born, the old regime must be destroyed, just like the change of dynasties in ancient times. Therefore, keeping the Iron Water King and his family was equivalent to blinding his eyes so that he could not see what was happening in Fiery Flower City. "Okay, I will leave." The Iron Water King looked calm. He reached out to grab the Rose King and take her out of the City Lord residence. "It is you who will leave, not her. She is mine." The Iron Water King suppressed his anger. "Everything in the City Lord residence is mine. You're already in the past. Don't go too far." The Iron Water King's eyes turned red. "It seems that you really think you are something." The sword light flashed, and the Iron Water King's head flew high. The powerful destruction sword intent combined with the strands of sword chi destroyed the Iron Water King's vitality and the soul imprint in his flesh. His face was full of disbelief. After all, he was the acting city lord, and the opponent had killed him directly. He thought that his foundation was powerful enough and should be taken seriously. However, he had forgotten one thing. This world was a world where the strong ruled, and the weak were prey to the strong. In Flame Flower City, Yichen was a powerful warrior, and he was merely a weakling. Perhaps he was very powerful in front of others. "I am not willing." The Iron Water King's voice stopped. "You killed him?" The Rose King looked at Yichen with a bit of fear. "I have killed a lot of people. He is just one of them." Yichen did not put the Iron Water King in his eyes. If he killed him, then so be it. He could only blame the other for not knowing when to stop. His eyes scanned the Rose King's body. Soon, Yichen found a Zhenyuan lock on the Rose King's body. It was this lock that had locked the Rose King's Zhenyuan. Puff! With the point of his finger, the Zhenyuan lock was broken. The Rose King stood up and hurriedly put on a new set of clothes to cover his half-naked body. "Thank you." Taking a deep breath, the Rose King thanked him. "You are from this planet?" Yichen asked. The Rose King said, "Yes, my family is in Fiery Flame City. It could be considered the #1 family here. Fiery Flame City seems to be under my jurisdiction." The Flame Flower City, as well as the 5 million miles around it, were all under his jurisdiction. The Starfire City was one of the 21 normal cities in the Flame Flower City. There were 2 continents and 9 main cities in the whole Flame Flower City, with each main city managing 10 to 20 normal cities. Of course, some of the normal cities were independent cities that were not under the control of any main city. Those were the cities that were built later. Most of the 1-star and 2-star generals did not have the same treatment as the purple gold rank commanders, so they could only choose the independent normal cities as their own territories. The 3-star purple gold rank commanders had the same treatment as the 5-star generals. "My name is Zhu Zume. I wonder what the city lord's name is." The Rose King felt that the opportunity was right in front of her. She planned to build a good relationship with Yichen, no matter what, to prepare for the future of her family. Yichen did not wait for the other to speak. "My family will move to Fiery Flame City after a while. If you don't mind, you can help me manage Fiery Flame City." "I don't mind. It will be my honor." The Rose King was very excited. Chapter 1129. City Lord. Zhao family has deep roots in the city. They have hundreds of life and death kings, and Iron Water King's nephew is already a commander. Rumor has it that he's breaking through to the 7th layer. Moreover, Zhao family has a close relationship with many powerful families of other planets. A few years ago, several titled monarchs visited Zhao family as guests. Their relationship seems to be not ordinary. You killing Iron Water King will bring you a lot of trouble. Iron Water King was surnamed Zhao, and he was the patriarch of Zhao family. Rose King felt the need to warn Yi Chun, lest he become too passive. Trouble. Yi Chun shook his head indifferently. Without reaching his realm, one simply couldn't understand a gap between a 3-star purple gold commander and an ordinary king. Take Iron Water King as an example. Yi Chun was at the 5th layer while his opponent was at the 6th layer. However, Yi Chun's battle strength was at least 1,000 times higher than his. His opponent's martial skills were probably hovering between the 1st and 2nd layer, while Yi Chun already had 3 peak 3rd layer sword arts. If Yi Chun wanted to kill, he could completely annihilate the entire Zhao family in a short period of time. It was only a matter of whether he wanted to or not. As for titled monarchs, they were indeed not a small threat. However, for Yi Chun, they were merely a threat. He didn't believe that Zhao family could invite an 8th layer life and death monarch. If they could invite such a monarch, they could completely protect Sparkle City, and the current situation wouldn't have happened. Not every 7th layer life and death monarch had the strength of Snow Air Emperor. The majority of them were ordinary monarchs, equivalent to low-level or mid-level battle emperors. It was true that the Rose King did not know how strong a 3-star purple gold rank commander was. The difference between them was too big, so big that it could not be accurately estimated. It was just like how a newborn baby would not know how strong an adult was. In their eyes, all adults were very strong. Seeing that Yi Chun didn't seem to care, Rose King felt somewhat relieved. Since he didn't care, he must have something to rely on. City Lord, you've just arrived, so the city guards and Sparkle Army certainly don't know you. I feel that we should gather the middle and high-level officers of the 2 armies in a short period of time. The Rose King suggested. Yi Chun nodded. There were 2 large armies in Sparkle City. One was the City Guard, and the other was the Sparkle Army. The city guards were responsible for patrolling the main city, maintaining the order and prosperity of the main city. There were 1 million of them, consisting of Life and Death Realm Warriors, Sea of Souls Realm Warriors, and Astral Reaching Realm Warriors. Astral Reaching Realm Warriors were the most common soldiers, while Sea of Souls Realm Warriors were the lowest level military officers, such as team leaders, squad leaders, and team leaders. Life and Death Realm Warriors were the middle and high-level military officers, such as team leaders, captains, and commanders. The Spark Army was responsible for patrolling the entire Flame Flower City. There were more than 10 million of them, and they were also composed of Life and Death Realm Warriors, Sea of Souls Realm Warriors, and Astral Reaching Realm Warriors. The City Guard branch captains were in charge of 20 soldiers. The squad captains were in charge of 100 soldiers. The platoon captains were in charge of 500 soldiers. The senior captains were in charge of 2,000 soldiers. The branch captains were in charge of 10,000 soldiers. The colonels were in charge of 50,000 soldiers, and the major captains were in charge of the entire city guard. The Sparkle Army had 10 commanders, one of whom was the overall commander. Each commander was in charge of a region. Of course, the city guards weren't limited to the main city guards. There were also city guards from ordinary cities within the borders. However, there is no need to summon these city guards for the time being. In a large manor on the west side of Flame Flower City, the upper echelons of the Zhao family were sitting in the meeting hall. An old man sat in the main seat. Everyone, I think you already know the reason for summoning you here. Right now, what we need to consider is how to stabilize the Zhao family's position. The old man was the previous patriarch of the Zhao family, Iron Leg King, and Iron Water King was his grandson. Old Patriarch, this new city master might not necessarily want to attack our Zhao family, right? Aren't we worrying a bit groundless? The one speaking was Iron Leg King's great-grandson, Zhao Fu. In the cosmos, apart from the first 3 generations, there was no such thing as intimacy. After all, Life and Death Kings could live for 100,000 years. Even if it was 1 generation per 1,000 years, there should be 100 generations. In terms of seniority, They could be considered dead, but there was no need. Zhao Fu directly addressed Iron Leg King as Old Patriarch and not Great Ancestor. Patriarch has been killed. Do you think this new city master won't attack our Zhao family? The middle-aged man beside Zhao Fu coldly snorted. Zhao Fu shook his head. Patriarch has been acting city master for dozens of years. He can't let go of his identity. As far as I'm concerned, he brought this upon himself. To be able to assume the position of city master of a third-grade life planet is not something our Zhao family can contend with. If we can't keep our identity straight, the new city master will naturally be dissatisfied. Therefore, I think Zhao family has to endure. We can't let the new city master think that our Zhao family is a scourge. Otherwise, our Zhao family will truly be finished. Iron Leg King nodded. Zhao Fu was right. The city master of a main city was indeed not something their Zhao family could contend with. Although their Zhao family had a good relationship with many powerful families, and some of these families had titled monarchs, interfering with Flame Flower City with external forces was a bad idea. The new city master was not a soft persimmon. To be able to become the city master of a main city, one had to rely on strength. Zhao Fu is right. It is not wise to go against the new city master. Zhao Meng didn't keep his identity straight, so he deserved to die. The old patriarch had many grandsons. Iron Water King Zhao Meng was only one of them. He would not be too sad. Even if he was sad, he had to look at the big picture and not risk his family's future. But our Zhao family has been in Flame Flower City for 70 to 80,000 years. Our roots are very deep. The arrival of the new city master will definitely affect our Zhao family's foundation. There is no doubt about this. How to protect our Zhao family's benefits, or even a large part of our benefits, is our biggest problem right now. Flame Flower City was equivalent to the Zhao family's base. Only here could the Zhao family earn 3 million yuan stones a year. If they moved to another planet, they might not even earn 100,000 yuan stones a year. As long as they could stay in Flame Flower City, even if their annual income was reduced by 1 or 2 times, the old patriarch would be very satisfied. He was only afraid that the new city master would deprive them of their future benefits. Zhao Fu thought for a while and said, "Old patriarch, I think we shouldn't be too idealistic. The arrival of the new city master will definitely break the current situation. In other words, it is impossible for our Zhao family to maintain our current position. After so many years, our Zhao family has accumulated a lot of wealth. Why don't we slowly develop on other planets and look for opportunities? Wait until Uncle Yang reaches the 7th sky of life and death realm and becomes a 1-star general. At that time, our Zhao family will be able to make a comeback on a rank 1 life planet. A 1-star general could obtain a main city on a rank 1 life planet as their territory. No need to go through so much trouble. Flame Flower City will still belong to our Zhao family." Right at this moment, a young man walked into the meeting hall. "Young, you've reached the 7th sky of life and death realm?" The old patriarch's eyes shone brightly. He was at the peak of the 6th sky of life and death realm, but as soon as the young man walked in, he felt a frightening pressure. Indeed, Zhao Yang nodded. He was indeed the nephew Iron Water King had mentioned. Chapter 1130. Great! Our Zhao family finally has a second titled monarch. The old patriarch, the Iron Leg King, laughed heartily with an excited expression. The other members of the Zhao family were also very excited. Their previous depression had been swept away. One had to know that although there were many titled monarchs in the universe, there weren't many of them. If a family could have a titled monarch, then that family would truly be considered a high-class family and would be famous for 100,000 years. On the other hand, it would only be a large local family. What a pity, the Iron Leg King said regretfully. If only it had been a little earlier. If Zhao Yang had become a titled monarch earlier, the Zhao family would have continued to inherit Sparkle City. That's right. It's very difficult to obtain Sparkle City now. Zhao Fu knew how high the status of the new city lord was. In the human army, Only 3-star purple gold commanders or 5-star generals had the right to own a rank 3 life planet's main city. In other words, Yi Chun was either a 3-star purple gold commander or a 5-star general. However, generals had to be titled monarchs. Since Yi Chun wasn't a monarch, he was naturally a 3-star purple gold commander. You can only gain by giving up. We can offer 1 billion yuan stones and let him choose a new main city. Zhao Yang said, 1 billion yuan stones is too much. Even if we obtain Sparkle City, it will take us many years to earn 1 billion yuan stones. That's right, too much. I think 500 million is enough. We just need to let him choose a new main city. The discussion in the conference hall became louder. Most of them objected. Hearing the discussions, Zhao Yang sneered, if you can't even give up 1 billion yuan stones, how can you even talk about owning Sparkle City? I'm over 3,000 years old this year. After inheriting the position of Sparkle City Lord, I'll have been here for nearly 100,000 years. Everyone should know how much wealth I can accumulate in 100,000 years. In theory, occupying a rank 3 life planet's main city could accumulate several 100 billion yuan stones in 100,000 years. Of course, this was only in theory. For example, an ordinary person could earn a lot in their lifetime, but their savings were pitifully small. The distribution of the clan's wealth, nurturing the younger generation, purchasing all sorts of secret arts, dealing with unexpected situations, issuing exploration missions, befriending sovereigns. All of these required essence stones. For a clan with a level 3 life planet's main city, it was already very exaggerated for it to accumulate 100 billion essence stones over 100,000 years. Normally, it would only be several tens of billions. The stronger one was, the more essence stones they would need. The old ancestor of the Zhao family offended too many people. After he died, his enemies all wanted to take revenge on the Zhao family. The Zhao family had to spend half of the family's wealth to settle these matters. Therefore, the Zhao family's wealth was a little less, but it was still around 10 billion. 1 billion wasn't a small amount. What if 1 billion is not enough? Zhao Fu frowned. 5 billion then. Zhao Yang's bottom line was no more than 2 billion. Everyone had their own bottom line. His bottom line was 4 times that of Ironwater King. No, what I mean is that the other party might not care about the benefits in front of them. You have to know that most of the empty main cities don't seem to have city lords, but they are all occupied by large clans. If every clan wants to use essence stones to make the other party compromise, then it will be very difficult for the other party to choose a satisfactory main city. Moreover, the upper echelons of the human race will not allow them to go back on their word again and again. Zhao Fu could see this more clearly than anyone else. Zhao Yang was silent for a moment. Then he raised his head and said, "Anyway, Spark City must belong to our Zhao family." Spark City Lord Residence. The high-ranking officers of the City Guard Army arrived first. Following them, the high-ranking officers of the Spark Army also arrived in groups of 2s and 3s. At this moment, the City Lord Residence's meeting hall was overcrowded. Fortunately, this hall was large enough that nearly 1,000 people could sit inside without feeling cramped. With the new City Lord taking office, the Zhao family will probably be purged. The one who spoke was the commander of the 7th Army of the Spark Army. The 9th Army commander nodded slowly. Among the high-ranking officers of the City Guard Army and the Spark Army, the Zhao family occupies 20 to 30%. The new City Lord will not allow the Zhao family to monopolize the city. The Spark Army had a total of 10 commanders. However, apart from the 7th and 9th Armies, the other 8 commanders were all life and death kings of the Zhao family or close to the Zhao family. The fact that the 2 of them could become commanders was actually the Zhao family's superficial effort. As for the City Guard Army, it was naturally under the Zhao family's control. I hope this purge won't be too big. The 9th Army commander continued. He cherished the position of commander very much. The City Guard Army and the Spark Army had a salary. Ordinary soldiers received upper-grade spirit stones. Basic officers received supreme-grade spirit stones, and middle and high-ranking officers received yuan stones. The annual salary of the Spark Army's branch officer was 300 yuan stones, the captain 1,000 yuan stones, the captain 3,000 yuan stones, and the commander 10,000 yuan stones. It did not seem like a lot, but there was basically no danger to their lives. They didn't need to explore or join the human army. As life and death kings, their lifespans were extremely long. After 10,000 years, the commander's position would definitely allow them to accumulate a net worth of tens of millions. Not to mention, at their position, the additional income was not small, and they could often make a small fortune. Once they lost this position, they could only wander around like other life and death kings or join the human army. Perhaps they could make a fortune for a while, but the risk was too high, and they could easily lose their lives. Of course, to become a commander, one had to first reach the 6th layer of life and death realm. Footsteps echoed as Yichun walked in from the side door of the hall. Behind him was Rose King, City Lord. Everybody in the hall stood up. Sweeping his gaze over everybody, Yichun waved his hand, indicating for everybody to sit down. Those who didn't come are all relieved of their duties. Yichun said to Rose King, "Yes." Rose King's current status was that of a vice city lord. Everybody in the hall was startled, inwardly rejoicing that they had arrived quickly. Glancing at Rose King, Yichun said, "From now on, Rose King is the vice city lord of Sparkflower City. Seeing her is the same as seeing me. For those who disobey, I advise you to leave right now. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Rest assured, City Lord, we will certainly follow your orders." Everybody was clear that by climbing on the high branch of City Lord, Rose King and her family could be said to have skyrocketed. Who would dare to be disrespectful to Rose King? As for City Lord's means, they didn't doubt at all. Before coming, they had already received the news that Sparkflower City's former City Lord, Zhao Clan's patriarch, Iron Water King, had been killed on the spot for disrespecting City Lord. They didn't think that their necks were tougher than Iron Water King's. Clearing his throat, the Rose King looked at the crowd and said, "The commander of the 4th Corps of the Spark Army, the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 9th captains of the 4th Corps are all dismissed. The commander of the 6th Corps, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 8th, and 9th captains of the 6th Corps are all dismissed." Sparkflower Army and City Guard Army had a total of 11 commanders. 4 of them had come, but at this moment, 2 of them had been dismissed. There were also a large number of captains, colonels, and branch captains. The 7th Army's commanders' brows twitched. The 2 dismissed commanders were the upper echelons of Scarlet Fire Gang and Sky Fire Gang. Among the 9 factions, these 2 gangs were undoubtedly Zhao Clan's lackeys. Chapter 1131. I can't accept this. We didn't do anything wrong. Why are you dismissing us? The 4th Army's commander was a big man with sideburns. People called him Copperhammer King. He stood up and glared at Rose King. The 6th Army's commander, Flying Feather King, looked at Yichun, City Lord. "Did I and Copperhammer King do anything wrong?" Yichun said indifferently, "No." "Then why did you dismiss us? Is it because we're from Scarlet Fire Gang and Flying Fire Gang? Right?" City Lord's actions are hard to convince the masses. I hope City Lord can retract his order. From now on, my Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang will wholeheartedly support you," Flying Feather King said loudly. Yichun coldly glanced at him. "You mean that if I don't retract my order, Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang won't wholeheartedly support me? That's good too. In that case, there's no need for them to exist. The 9 great powers of Sparkle City are indeed a bit too much. It's time to eliminate 1 or 2. Hearing these words, Flying Feather King's complexion turned incomparably pale. He didn't expect that his words would bring a huge disaster to Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang. He promptly said, "City Lord, I spoke without thinking just now. I hope you can forgive me. Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang will never have second thoughts." At this time, he no longer dared to talk about Yichun retracting his order. If the latter wanted to annihilate Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. That's for the best. Go back and tell your gang leader that if you want to survive in Sparkle City, don't do anything out of line. If I catch you, you'll have to bear the consequences. He didn't mind annihilating Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang, but he needed a reason. Otherwise, recklessly annihilating other gangs would put everyone in danger. Yes, Flying Feather King and Copperhammer King didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Next, Rose King dismissed many more people. These people were all life and death kings close to Zhao family. Originally, they were hidden very deeply, and ordinary people didn't know about them. However, they couldn't hide it from Rose King and her family. In the end, among the 1,300 and 400 high-ranking officers, apart from the 200 life and death kings of the Zhao family, more than 400 were relieved of their duties. It could be said to be a huge layoff. Fortunately, there were a lot of life and death realm warriors on the planet. As long as the news was sent out, there would definitely be thousands of life and death realm warriors fighting for these positions. After all, this was an iron rice bowl. If he missed this opportunity, he wouldn't get another one. City Lord, Zhao Yang of the Zhao family requests an audience. The next day, a guest arrived at the gate of the City Lord's mansion. The person who came in to report was the captain of the guards. Zhao Yang? Who is he? Yi Chen asked. Zhao Yang is the #1 expert of Zhao family. He's more than 3,000 years old this year. It's said that he reached the peak of life and death 6th layer 2,000 years ago, and even defeated a tidal monarch. People call him Scorching Sun King. Invite him in. Yi Chen nodded. Soon, Zhao Yang arrived at the meeting hall. Zhao Yang was a tall young man who looked to be in his 30s. He raised his head and looked at Yi Chen, who was sitting at the head of the hall, and said, I'm the new patriarch of the Zhao family, Zhao Yang. I've come this time to discuss the matter of the Inferno Flower City. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. I've come with sincerity. All right then, tell me your sincerity. Yi Chen, on the other hand, wanted to hear the other party's sincerity. Zhao Yang's brows twitched. 1 billion. As long as you give up the Inferno Flower City and choose another main city as your territory, my Zhao family can give you 1 billion yuan stones in one go. Moreover, from now on, you'll be a friend of my Zhao family. This won't be a loss for you, but a huge profit instead. I believe that there should be a few third-grade life planets that are not inferior to the Inferno Flower City. 1 billion, indeed a big sum. Yi Chen faintly smiled. For ordinary life and death kings, 1 million yuan stones was already enough for them to not have to struggle with their lives on the line. After all, not everyone had high potential. For the majority of life and death kings, no matter how hard they tried, they could only linger around the 2nd or 3rd layer. 10 million yuan stones could support the development of a 4th-grade family. 100 million yuan stones could make a 3rd-grade family flourish. As for 1 billion, many people didn't even dare to think about it. Have you thought it through? Zhao Yang carefully observed Yi Chen's expression, hoping to find some clues. To tell you the truth, I don't lack yuan stones. Yi Chen didn't waver in the slightest. Faintly creasing his brows, Zhao Yang said, In this world, everything has its value. It's just a matter of how high or low it is. I believe that in your heart, the Inferno Flower City is not priceless. Indeed, the Inferno Flower City is not priceless in my heart, but your Zhao family cannot afford it. 2 billion. Zhao Yang still didn't give up. 10 billion, and the Inferno Flower City belongs to your Zhao family. Yi Chen didn't believe that the Zhao family would be willing to pay 10 billion. If they were truly willing, he would consider it. 10 billion. Even though Zhao Yang had already prepared his heart, he was still startled by Yi Chen's huge appetite. 10 billion was equivalent to the entire wealth of the Zhao family. Not to mention the other members of the family. Even he himself wouldn't agree. Who knew how many years it would take for the Zhao family to earn back 10 billion, and what kind of difficulties they would encounter during this period of time. Zhao Yang didn't get angry, but instead smiled. You really know how to joke. I can't accept 10 billion. It's ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, the position of Inferno Flower City Lord is worth 10 billion. Inferno Flower Planet was a very special life planet. There were very few places suitable for human habitation, less than 20% of the planet. Although the other places were not suitable for human habitation, They were the most valuable places on the planet. Inexhaustible metal ores, fire-attributed energy stones, and fire-attributed spirit grasses were all treasures. In simpler terms, the value of a capital city of Inferno Flower Planet was not inferior to a capital city of a fifth-grade life planet. Zhao Yang's expression gradually turned gloomy. Sucking in a deep breath, he slowly said, "Since you can obtain Inferno Flower City, it means that you're a 3-star purple gold commander. How about this? If I can win one move against you by luck, can you consider my condition?" As long as he won, Zhao Yang didn't believe that Yi Chan would still have the face to stay in Inferno Flower City. Win one move against me? How could Yi Chan not see that Zhao Yang had already entered the 7th layer of life and death realm? He was no longer the Burning Sun King, but the Burning Sun Emperor. Having just entered the 7th layer, he was certainly full of confidence. There's no need to go through so much trouble. As long as you can block one move of mine without falling into a disadvantageous position, there's no harm in giving you Inferno Flower City. Yi Chun said, "All right, it's a deal." A prideful expression flickered in Zhao Yang's eyes. He didn't expect that Yi Chan would be so easily provoked. In fact, he didn't have the slightest bit of confidence in winning against Yi Chan. But now, things were much easier. Not to mention, not falling into a disadvantageous position in one move, he could even win 10 moves without falling into a disadvantageous position. "Make your move." Zhao Yang's Zhen Yuan erupted. His entire body seemed like a human-shaped sun, emitting boundless radiance. Chapter 1132. Before entering the 7th sky of life and death realm, Zhao Yang was known as the Burning Sun King. He was proficient in the Yang Profound, Fire Profound, and Earth Profound. According to these 3 profounds, he had created 2 extreme rank 2 martial arts, Burning Sun Palm and Lava Exploding Fist. Although they couldn't compare to those geniuses, they were still quite good. The reason why he was so confident was not only because of his realm advantage, but also because he had created a 3rd-rank martial art, Sky-Dominating Sun Fist. Back then, it was precisely this fist that had allowed him to defeat a titled monarch. Take my sun-splitting palm first. Zhao Yang's right hand emitted boundless light and heat as if it was condensed from light. He sucked in a deep breath and threw a palm attack at Yi Chun. As this palm attack was thrown out, the entire hall became dark. It was as if it was not a human's palm, but a real sun as it shot toward Yi Chun. A titled monarch is a titled monarch after all. An entire realm had 3 stages, and titled monarchs had surpassed the 3rd stage by condensing the monarch's mark. Strictly speaking, titled monarchs had already turned the entire realm into their instinct. When they attacked, they would be at their peak state. Combined with their 7th sky of life and death realm Jin Yuan, their battle power would reach an extremely frightening level. Not daring to be careless, Yi Chun instantly entered the entire realm and slashed out with his sword. Puff! The blazing palm energy dissipated, and light specks danced in the air. "It's my turn. Block this sword, and the Flame Flower City will be yours." Holding the Dragon Spring Sword with one hand, Yi Chun raised it high and stared at Zhao Yang. "Come." Zhao Yang's eyes flickered with intense confidence. His right arm started to burn fiercely like a piece of red-hot iron. Drops of lava dripped down with sizzling sounds. The Extreme Sky Tyrannical Sun Fist was different from ordinary martial arts. The unique aspect of this martial art was that once it accumulated power, the entire arm would transform into energy. It could expand and shrink at will. This way, the attack power would be more concentrated and there would be less wastage. As soon as Zhao Yang finished speaking, Yi Chun's attack came. If Zhao Yang's sun-splitting palm was the sun, then Yi Chun's Sun Essence Extreme could be called a white dwarf. Its power was more restrained, but it was 100 times more terrifying. The dazzling sword chi almost reached Zhao Yang in a flash. Break! Zhao Yang's right arm swelled up like the fist of a deity, striking towards the radiant sword chi. Boom! The entire City Lord's mansion shook violently. The full power of 2 combat emperors was enough to destroy an ordinary planet with a diameter of a few 100,000 miles. Although the destructive power would be reduced by 1,000 times on a planet with life, it was still not to be underestimated. Under normal circumstances, it would be enough to turn a radius of a few hundred miles into a doomsday scene. Of course, as the heart of Sparkle City, the City Lord's mansion was covered in countless formations and restrictions. After destroying some of the formations, most of the energy was absorbed and converted into energy for the formation to operate. The remaining energy that could not be absorbed was crazily released through the door of the meeting hall, spewing out a dazzling pillar of light. Not good. Zhao Yang's expression changed immediately. This sword attack of Yi Chen's had reached a level of extreme yang and could destroy anything. Although his sky-piercing tyrannical sun fist was also extremely tyrannical, it paled in comparison to this sword attack. He could not block it at all. Boom! The light exploded in a fan shape, and Zhao Yang spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying into the sky by the light pillar. On his body, a set light appeared. Obviously, Zhao Yang also had a low-level Heavenly King set. They were both low-level Heavenly King set, but Zhao Yang's defense was more than 10 times that of Yi Chen's. After all, their cultivation bases were 2 levels apart. Even if Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan was closer to the Sword Yuan level, which was much purer than an ordinary life and death 4th level Zhen Yuan, it would still be hard to imagine. On the other hand, if Zhao Yang did not have a low-level Heavenly King set, he would have died under this sword. The destructive power of the Sun Essence Extreme was hard to imagine without experiencing it personally. After tumbling dozens of meters in the sky, Zhao Yang finally stabilized his body. His face was ashen as he stared at Yi Chen below. With a cold snort, he turned around and left. My cultivation base is still a bit too low. Yi Chen realized that he had underestimated Zhao Yang. The latter's 3rd revolution martial skill, sky-piercing tyrannical sun fist, was hundreds of times weaker than his 3rd revolution peak sword skill, Sun Essence Extreme. However, when the two had exchanged blows just now, Yi Chen was only a few times stronger than his opponent. In other words, his opponent's cultivation base was at least 100 times stronger than Yi Chen's. Although the higher one's martial skills progressed, the more frightening their destructive power would be. Every tiny bit of improvement would be 10 times stronger. 3rd revolution martial skills and peak 3rd revolution martial skills would have a difference of 100 times, and 4th revolution martial skills would have a difference of 1,000 times. However, correspondingly, the higher one's cultivation base was, the slower one's progress would be. 3rd revolution peak sword skill was Yi Chen's limit. It would be a long time before his sword arts would have a big improvement. Therefore, he could only focus on other aspects. The gap of 2 realms was not a small one. It was too big. Of course, 7th life and death realm Jin Yuan was not 100 times stronger than 5th life and death realm Jin Yuan. It was mainly because of the Emperor's mark. Therefore, Yi Chen had to either increase his cultivation base or reach an Ata realm. The former would take too long, but the latter could continue to improve. Time to return to God Paradise. Yi Chen had the intention to leave. As the deputy city lord, Rose King was very competent. In a short week, she had filled in the gap of high-ranking officers of the Flame, Flower Army, and City Guards. Although many of them were from the Rose family, it didn't arouse Yi Chen's disgust. Nepotism was very important in consolidating one's position. She was Yi Chen's trusted aide at the moment, so nurturing her own family was not a bad thing. After settling everything, Yi Chen left Planet Flame. Returning to God Paradise, Yi Chen immediately entered the Time Tower. The first 3 postures of Hidden Dragon's secret art were Golden Rooster, Seeking Tao, Parting Clouds, and Suddenly Turning Head. The 4th posture was called Heaven and Earth Interweaving. This posture was related to the yin and yang within the body. When yin and yang combined, Taiji would be born. One day in the Time Tower was 100 days in the outside world. Yi Chen had learned Heaven and Earth Interweaving, and he felt the hidden potential in his body surging like a tide. The 5th posture of Hidden Dragon's secret art was Flower Pinching Instant. This posture was very difficult. It was about the combination of movement and stillness, and it even involved the principles of the universe. However, in terms of stimulating potential, it was a step further. At that moment, Yi Chun felt that the only thing left in the world was his flower-pinching hand. Everything else had disappeared. As for the sixth posture, it was a checkpoint. As long as he learned this posture, Yi Chun could be considered to have entered the palace of Hidden Dragon Secret Art and excavated the true mystery of the Hidden Dragon Secret Art. Hidden Dragon rises from the abyss. This was the name of the sixth posture. Crackle, crackle. Popping sounds came from Yi Chun's body continuously. The sounds extended from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. The motionless Yi Chun closed his eyes. However, in his perception, he seemed to be soaring from the depths of the dark underground. Nothing could stop him. Correspondingly, his potential was also soaring and subliming. Chapter 1133. Bang! After an unknown amount of time, Yi Chun's body suddenly emitted a silvery radiance that seemed to have materialized. Anyone familiar with Selfless Realm would know that this was the second stage of Selfless Realm, Selfless Body. The second stage of Selfless Realm was divided into two paths. One was Selfless Heavenly Eye, and the other was Selfless Body. The pupils of Selfless Heavenly Eye would be golden, while the body would emit a silvery radiance. Once one reached the Selfless Body realm, it meant that one's potential had been stimulated to the limit. One more step would be the highest realm, Selfless Emperor. This silvery radiance represented the flame of potential. The brighter the silvery radiance, the stronger the potential. Slowly opening his eyes, his black pupils were dyed a deep silver, cold and emotionless. The corners of his eyes also seemed to have become much sharper, long and narrow like blades. Yi Chun inwardly thought, worthy of the Selfless Body. The combination of Zhen Yuan and potential is like water and milk. My battle strength should have increased by about 2 folds. The first stage of Selfless Realm was not as powerful as the secret art 3-flower borrowing Dao, which was about 70 to 80%. The second stage would increase it by 2 folds, and the third stage would increase it by 5 folds. As for surpassing Selfless Realm and condensing the Emperor's Mark, that would be quite an exaggeration. Of course, although Yi Chun's battle strength had increased from 70 to 80%, the overall improvement was not that big. 3-star purple gold rank commander had the strength of a high-level combat emperor, and the gap between the most ordinary high-level combat emperor and the strongest high-level combat emperor was at least 10 folds. If Yi Chun was a mid-level high-level combat emperor before, he was now almost at the high level. There was still a long way to go before he could break through to the peak-level combat emperor realm. One had to admit that martial skills were the best way to rapidly increase one's strength. As long as one comprehended it, one's battle strength might increase by 10 or 20 folds. Without exaggeration, if one could comprehend a 5th revolution martial skill at the first layer of life and death realm, defeating a titled monarch would be as easy as waving one's hand. It should be known that a 5th revolution martial skill was more than 10,000 times more powerful than a 3rd revolution martial skill. For any martial skill, every time a profound was fused, its destructive power would increase exponentially. Moreover, the further one went, the more obvious it became. The reason why Yi Chun could possess his current strength was closely related to the 3rd revolution limit sword art. As for speeding up the progress of martial skills, one had to first raise one's cultivation base. The higher one's cultivation base was, the stronger one's perception would be. It was impossible for a 5th layer life and Death King's perception to surpass a 9th layer life and Death Sovereign. It was said that every single 9th layer life and Death Sovereign had comprehended a supreme martial skill. The so-called peerless martial arts were the perfect martial arts. The fusion of Upanishads was perfect. For example, life and death, 5 elements, yin and yang, time and space, earth, water, fire, wind, light and darkness. Supreme martial skills were the pinnacle of martial skills. Although a martial skill containing life and death profound seemed to be a 2nd revolution martial skill on the surface, it was only on the surface. Even if one could fuse 6 kinds of Upanishads and comprehend a 6th revolution martial skill, its lethality would still be far inferior to life and death profound. Life and death profound contained too much. It had already formed a reincarnation cycle, and one's 6 kinds of Upanishads could not surpass life and death profound. Unfortunately, supreme martial arts were too hard to comprehend. Yi Qin's Yin profound and Yang profound had already reached perfection, and his 5 elements profound had also reached perfection. However, if he wanted to fuse them into a martial art, it would be as hard as ascending to the heavens. Of course, supreme martial skills also had different levels. Someone who had just comprehended a life and death profound would certainly not be able to compare with someone who had comprehended it for a long time. Talking about this was too far away. Yi Chun had just climbed a small mountain and was still far away from the summit. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 100 months had passed in the Time Tower, which was equivalent to 1 month in the outside world. Yi Chun finally learned the 7th position of Hidden Dragon Sutra. The 7th position of the Hidden Dragon art is called Soaring Dragon in the Sky. To ordinary people, this position is so rare that it makes one's hair stand on end. This position is about absolute freedom and absolute will. Although my body doesn't move, my heart is like a soaring dragon soaring into the sky, soaring through the 9 heavens. My will runs through the heaven and earth. Hidden Dragon Rises from the Abyss had stimulated all of his potential, while Soaring Dragon in the Sky had fermented this potential and refined it to the point of being reborn. At this point, he was merely a step away from the 3rd stage of selfless state, selfless emperor. Almost there. Yi Chun continued to comprehend the 8th position of Hidden Dragon Sutra, rebuking the wind and clouds. The dragon flew up into the sky and began to command the wind and clouds. The 8th posture was about how to unleash one's potential to the extreme and enter a mysterious state where everything in the world revolved around one. When Yi Chun was comprehending Hidden Dragon Sutra in the Time Tower, the paradise of God's hotel became boisterous. There were still 3 to 4 days before the high-ranking members entered the hunting tower. Most of the high-ranking members were in the hotel, including the members of the Exorcist Squad. Thousand Arrow Monarch, are you telling the truth? Did Yi Chun kill Mo Lu King? Mo Lu King has the strength of a low-level combat emperor. Even a mid-level combat emperor would have a hard time killing him. Mo Lu King could have easily escaped. That's right. No matter how fast Yi Chun improves, he shouldn't be this abnormal. Most of the people were still skeptical. Zhang Yining sneered. Why would I lie to you? To tell you the truth, killing Mal King is not even worth mentioning. Right now, he is a 3-star purple gold commander. He has already chosen a 3rd grade life planet's main city as his territory. Are you all scared out of your wits? What? 3-star purple gold commander? Killing the Mal King had already aroused many people's suspicions, but becoming a 3-star purple gold rank commander left everyone dumbfounded. In the entire paradise of gods, only the Sky Marshal King was a 2-star purple gold commander. This time, it was said that the Vermilion Bird King and the Divine Blade King had also become 1-star purple gold commanders, but compared to the 3-star purple gold commanders, they were undoubtedly insignificant. A 1-star purple gold commander was equivalent to a low-level combat emperor. A 2-star purple gold commander was equivalent to a mid-level combat emperor, and a 3-star purple gold commander was equivalent to a high-level combat emperor. Let alone the paradise of God, there were only a few high-level combat emperors in the entire high-rank hunting battlefield. The goddess of darkness from the demons, God bless Queen, was one of them. The paradise of God was at a disadvantage in the high-rank hunting battlefield. Why? It was because they didn't have anyone who could control the situation. They didn't have any absolute experts, and they didn't have many people. For example, the demons had God bless Queen, the barbarian race had Barbarian Bone King, and the Yiksha race had Blood Spear King. These 3 were collectively known as the 3 great combat emperors in the high-rank hunting battlefield. They were leaders, and with them around, the others could only run away. If they weren't fast enough, they would naturally die. The paradise of God Bless Queen and Bloodspear King had accumulated to more than 10 quasi-emperors and a few combat emperors. If this continued, their overall strength would become weaker and weaker. It would be very difficult for them to make a comeback. Now, they finally had a leader. Yi Chen's existence could guarantee the paradise of God's position and prevent them from becoming weaker.